And it's now 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock. Amy, I hate to do this to you, but could you call the roll again?
Sure. Mr. Fuller,
Here.
Mr. DeLomo, Mr. Malta, Mr. Manel, Mr. Van Wagner, Mr. Worrell,
Here.
Mrs. Beal,
Here.
Mr. Mamie,
Here.
Mr. Ashley,
Here.
Chairman Shepherd.
Here. Okay, I won't ask you to stand, but I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The notice requirements for the open public meeting law for this meeting have been satisfied. A copy of the notice has been sent to the Asbury Park Press and the Coaster and filed with the Office of Township Clerk on July 27, 2020. Board policy: no new cases will be started after 10 p.m. and no new testimony taken after 10:30. In addition, applicants will be limited to 45 minutes of testimony. All meetings will be video and audio tapes shown on Township of Ocean's Community Cable Channel, Channel 22 on Verizon, Fios, and Channel 77 on Cablegate. July is our reorganization, so Mr. Steinberg, do we have to swear in the professionals first?
No. Do we have any new members who were appointed as of July 1st?
I don't think so.
We have
Amy?
reappointments.
Okay.
We do not have any new members, no.
But we do have reappointments.
Yes.
Okay, and who are the reappointments? They have to be sworn in for their new term.
Okay. They are,
Mr. Van Wagner, I thought was one.
But he's not here.
Correct. That's why we checked one off the list.
Okay.
yes, Mr. Van Wagner, Mr. Worrell for 4 years, and then the 2 years are Mr. DeLomo, Mrs. Beal, Mr. Mamie, and Mr. Ashkenazi.
Okay, so Mr. DeLomo's not here and Mr. Van Wagner's not here. So please swear the other members in for their terms.
Okay, now, you sent me the oaths for tonight,
I did.
Amy, but you sent it on Windmail again.
I don't know why that is. That's just me scanning it at work and sending it over.
But
It's
usually,
an old thing in the computers that used to be that, should call it, Windows used to have. It's obsolete and the newer computers can't translate it.
right.
Okay, there's
Yeah, there's a
Amy, do
special
you,
program you can use to do it, but
okay,
usually-
ladies and gentlemen, at this point in time, we're going to be jamming through a meeting.
Right,
We
so
have
let's,
a lot on the agenda. Okay, Mr. Steinberg, do you have a form
No.
there, or shall Amy?
I was just gonna say, let Amy read it along with all those people to be sworn in. They should raise their right hands. If they have the oath, they can read along with Amy.
Okay. Amy, please read it in.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna say I, and then you have to fill in your
State your
name.
name.
I
James Worrell.
do
Wanda Beal.
solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and to the governments established in the United States and in this state under the authority of the people. I do further solemnly swear that I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all of the duties of a member of the Township of Ocean Board of Adjustment according to the best of my ability, so help me God.
Does everybody agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do.
I do.
There should be a form that Amy will send you that you sign. That's what we usually have at the meetings. And then that'll be signed and submitted back, okay? Amy, you'll do it another time.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, number 2, It's time to elect a chairman, and this is my last meeting tonight because I'm actually moving out of town. So I'm going to nominate James Worrell to be the chairman because Russ Malta, who's my vice chairman, and I speak to all the time, said that he would rather not be the chairman because he's going to be retiring soon also. So I'm nominating James Worrell.
I'll second.
Amy, please call the roll.
Well, any other nominations?
Any other nominations? Okay, Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
do you vote on your own? No, no.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay, Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Mamie,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Shepherd.
Yes. Well, congratulations, James.
Thank you, sir.
So I'd like, the next is number 3, to elect a vice chairman. I would like to nominate Shawanda Beal to be vice chairman of the Board of Adjustment.
I second that motion.
Any other nominations? Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Mamie,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Shepherd.
Yes. Let it be noted that Shawanda will be the first female vice chairman of the Board of Adjustment in Ocean Township ever. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Henry,
Yes, sir.
it's time to turn the gavel over to James. He's now the chairman.
James asked me to run the meeting tonight.
Didn't know that. Okay. Take good notes, Jim.
Yes, I am.
Okay, that's not a problem, right, Mark?
No, he's
Okay.
right there. No, fine.
Okay, approve meeting dates for the upcoming year. I don't have the dates.
Well, I think since we don't have anything posted, I think that Amy just should read them real fast for the record. Just the dates.
Okay. July 15th, August 19th, September 9th, October 21st, November 18th, December 16th, January 20th, February 17th, March 17th, April 21st, May 19th, and June 16th.
Somebody offer those?
Somebody offer?
I'll make a motion, Worrell.
I'll second Mamie.
Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Mamie,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Shepherd.
Yes. Number 5, appoint board adjustment attorney. I'd like to appoint Mark Steinberg.
I'll second that, Worrell.
Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Mamie,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Shepherd.
Yes.
Thank you.
Appointment of the Board of Adjustment Planner. I'd like to nominate Jim Higgins.
Mr. Chairman, can I
Yeah.
make a suggestion? Similar with CME, you're nominating the firm. If you do choose to reappoint me, I would suggest you nominate James W. Higgins Associates. That way, if there's a problem and Allison has to come to a hearing, it
Agreed.
doesn't create an issue.
That's
Agreed.
agreed. So I'm nominating James Higgin and Associates.
I'll
Denise.
second that, Worrell.
Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Sure.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes,
Mrs. Beal,
yes,
They will never get.
Mr. Mamie,
Yes.
Unless,
Mr. Ashkenazi,
let's
Yeah.
stay with the May
Chairman Shepherd.
dates.
Yes.
And I think they were, maybe that's,
Burton,
Did it.
can we please, everybody mute your mics, please?
Thank you.
Unless you're a part of the board.
Number 7, appoint board adjustment engineer. So do I appoint, I don't
CME
appoint Mr. Matlack, CME,
Okay.
right?
DME Associates.
CME Associates. I need a second.
I'll second that, Worrell.
Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes,
Mrs. Beal,
yes,
Mr. Mamie,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Shepherd.
Yes. Number 8, appoint board of adjustment secretary. I appoint Amy.
I'll second that, Worrell.
Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes,
Mrs. Beal,
yes,
Mr. Mamie,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Shepherd.
Yes.
All right, before you go further, Mr. Steinberg, I am the zoning board administrator. I take the oath. Is that something we should put on the record?
Yeah, all 3 of you, I will give you the oath.
Okay,
Now, in the event a different engineer comes, or if Jim's daughter should come, we'll swear them in at a meeting. But basically, you can all raise your right hands. And do you each solemnly swear that all the reports and testimony you will give as to the applications before this board will be true to the best of your knowledge, information, and belief? And you understand that if you do not tell the truth, the same are subject to punishment.
I do.
I do.
You're sworn.
So sworn. Okay, can we start now?
Yeah, so who was noticed at 6 o'clock?
Well, wait,
Oh, no, you want to do the memorializations? You want to do?
let's do minutes for approval first.
Sure.
Minutes for approval, December 17th to 2020, January 21st, 2021, February 18th, 2021, March 11th, 2021, special meeting. Someone please offer.
No, I don't think that we can vote on them as a package because we had different members attend, correct, Amy?
That's right.
So December 17th, who's eligible?
Mr. Fuller. Oh, actually, all of you. So, Mr. Worrell.
Okay, they're all eligible. That's fine.
They're
Yeah.
all eligible?
How about
Yes.
January 21st? They're all eligible?
Yes.
Okay, that's good. How about February 18th?
Yes. Everyone who's not eligible is not here, so it works out.
Oh, even the
right.
March 11th special meeting?
Yes.
Okay.
All right,
Now
I
I'm
need,
going to offer all of them at once.
someone to offer.
Worrell offers.
I'll
Need a
second.
second?
Is he still in there?
Second.
Amy, please call the roll.
I'm sorry. Who seconded?
Fuller.
Okay, great. Okay, Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes,
Mrs. Beal,
yes,
Mr. Mamie,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Shepherd.
Yes. Okay, resolution and memorialization. Mark, can I do these all at once?
Yes, I believe that everybody here tonight is eligible.
Yes.
Yes, but for the public, these resolutions were pre-prepared and circulated among the members we're voting tonight, so they have all had an opportunity to see them.
Correct.
Somebody,
Okay,
go ahead. Why don't you read them and then somebody can move them all in at once.
okay. Klein Cronum, Block 72, Lot 1, 486 Stafford Street, Ocean, bulk variance approval. Eddie and Sharon Dayan, Block 14.01, Lot 8, 251 Wilson Avenue, Ocean, bulk variance approval. RC Realty South LLC, Block 3, Lot 3, 2135, 2133 Highway 35, Ocean, amended site plan approval. D3 variance approval, bulk variance approval. Evan Wright, Block 39.04, Lot 7.02, 89 Cold Indian Springs Road, Ocean, bulk variance approval. Jane Steigler, Block 1.10, Lot 3, 6, Winterberry Court, Ocean, bulk variance approval. Alan and Joy Shanto, Block 138, Lot 35, 1000 Roselle Avenue, Ocean, bulk variance approval. Someone please offer.
Worrell offers.
I need a
Fuller,
second.
second.
Okay, please, Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
yes,
Mr. Mamie,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Shepherd.
Yes. Case is carried to August 19th, 2021 on Zoom. Morris Dweck, Block 43, Lot 1.2, 300 Parker Avenue, Deal. Kenneth Greenstein, Block 22, Lot 90, 204 West Morgan Avenue, Ocean. William Larkin, Block 25.07, Lot 12, 190 Belmore Avenue, Oakhurst. Vineyard Osco Kale, Block 37.19, Lot 10, 19 Bentley Drive, Ocean. D-Dip Automotive Group, Block 137, Lot 1, 2, and 3, Lot 807, Highway 35, Ocean. Jesse Schomer, Block 12.06, Lot 4, 9 Burger Avenue, Ocean. 3500 Sunset Avenue LLC, Block 43, Lot 1.2, 300 Parker Avenue, Deal Park. Christopher Tallis, Block 121, Lot 5, 1406 Camp Avenue, Ocean. Do they need to renotice or anything, Mark?
It depends on their respective notices. Amy and I will take care of that. I believe
Okay.
it's probably good to be carried.
Okay, case is carried to July 29th, 2021, 6 PM on Zoom. Hillel School, Block 34.03, Lot 2, 2.01, 5.01, 5.02, 6, 1025 Deal Road, Ocean. Whew. Which brings us to, now we can go, how do we figure this out, Mark?
Okay, Amy, new cases is Elliot Daba. Was that noticed for 6 o'clock?
All the new cases were noticed for 6 o'clock.
You got to go to number 8, Elliot Daba.
8. Okay, here we go. Okay, which brings us to new cases. Elliot Daba.
For the
Block six-
public, all right, but for the public, we'll go at 7:30, we'll go back to the carried cases.
Right.
Okay,
Elliot Daba, Block 66, Lot 9, 620 Myrtle Avenue, West Allenhurst, Zone R5. This is an application to construct a covered front porch within a front yard setback to install additional AC condenser and pool equipment with the side yard setback. Mr. Daba, are you here? Is someone here?
Yes, I'm here. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Please raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Amy, please mark the packet.
Okay.
Thank you. Mr. Higgins.
It's a short report, so I'll read it, dated July 9th. The applicant proposes to construct an approximate 232 square foot front porch to an existing residence and install 2 air conditioning condenser units and pool equipment on the west side of the house. The existing house has a 30-foot front yard setback and an 11.3-foot west side yard setback to an approved addition. Variances will be necessary for minimum front yard setback, 30 feet is required, 22.5 feet is proposed to the porch, and 18 feet is proposed to the steps. The proposed porch will be open and occupy approximately 1/2 of the building frontage. The board should determine if there is any significant negative impact. The porch clearly will improve the livability of the residents, and the steps are simply necessary to access the porch. It may be that the addition of the porch will be an aesthetic improvement to the residents. It should be noted that a number of other residences in the immediate area, including Myrtle Avenue, have open front porches that seem to be located closer to the street than 30 feet. Accessory structures other than buildings 3 feet in height or less must maintain the required 10-foot side yard setback. 8 feet is proposed to the air conditioning condensers and 7 feet is proposed to the pool equipment. It's not possible to locate these units adjacent to the house and conform to the required 10-foot setback. The proposed air conditioning units and pool equipment are adjacent to an existing shed and fence on adjacent lot 8 and will not seem to have any significant visual or audio impact as compared to those that would be set back the required 10 feet.
Okay, Ben, I need you to unmute yourself. I know this is a little different than other towns. And instead of reading your entire report, what we ask is, if you have any substantive engineering concerns with regard to this application, we need you to note them now.
Sure. In my review, I noted that there were a few things like the existing pool and patio in the backyard that indicated they were previously approved. I would just like clarification on that from the applicant. And I'd also like them to just discuss the general topography of their property. Which way does the water flow? Does it flow towards the street? Is the addition going to cause any detriments to the neighboring properties? And that's all I really have concern about.
Thank you.
Mr. Dobby, you're up. Please tell us what you're doing.
Yes, so we're looking to add the front porch as noted, and all the required drainage will be running as per whatever the requirements will be. I mean, we had an engineer come out and work with us to help us figure out the right way to pitch the water and all that, so that we can do what we need to do in order to satisfy the township.
Okay. And the covered front porch is for I'm sorry, is it living area? Is it how large is it?
I believe it's approximately 8 feet. It will just be a sitting area, a covered porch sitting area for outside.
Okay. And does the roof line match the house?
The roof line, no, it will not be at the height of the house.
No, that's not what I'm asking.
I'm
Is
sorry.
same roofing material?
Oh, yes.
Okay. And the porch itself, I guess the structure is going to match the house, correct?
Correct. Yes,
Color?
correct.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, everything is going to be uniform with the house, so it'll have a nice look to match the entire house.
Mr. Malak, you said about water flow. He had an engineer out. Is that what do you need? What do you need from Mr. Dobb?
Well, I didn't see any topography on the plan, but can I ask you, sir, does your yard generally drain towards the street? Is your house a little higher than the road?
Yeah, the house is definitely a little bit higher than the street level. We are making sure the drainage and everything is correct.
And
you know, because we're on a high table, high water table in this area. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, that's okay. I didn't mean to cut you off. Is everything generally going to stay the same as it currently is with regards to drainage? You're not doing any major grading or anything like that?
No, just what was existing, and we're gonna be putting down sod and the grass and, you know, completing the project hopefully.
Okay. And is the pool and the patio in the back, is that part of this application, or was that previously
No,
done?
that was separate. That was approved and basically finishing stages.
Okay. I have no other concerns, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. Anyone from the board have any questions? Anyone from the public here that has any questions for Mr. Dava? Okay, need a motion to close the public hearing?
Make a motion to close the public hearing. Worrell.
Need a second?
Second, Fuller.
Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Mamie,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Shepherd.
Yes. Action?
I offer for a positive resolution. Worrell.
Need a second?
Beal, second.
Thank you. Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Mamie,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Shepherd.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Dava.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Next case is case number 9, Tia and Sean Maloney, block 98, lot 2, 1403 Walnut Avenue, Ocean, zone R5. This is an application to keep an existing 6-foot solid fence within the requirements, front yard setback on South Ditmar Paper Street, erected without benefit of a permit. Mr. or Mrs. Maloney, are you here?
Yes.
Okay. Amy, please mark the packet.
Okay.
Who's going to testify, please?
I will.
Okay, please raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Please state your name and address for the record.
Tia Maloney, 1403 Walnut Avenue.
Okay. Mr. Higgins.
I'll just summarize it. It is a 6-foot fence. It's technically in a required front yard, so it needs a variance, but the street is not improved. I don't think it's ever going to be improved because of its location. So while it's technically a front yard, functionally, it's really a rear yard. And I really don't have a problem with the fence at all. It was never the intent of the ordinance that a situation like this would require that the fence be lower. The only other point is that the zoning officer did mention that there is a pre-existing non-conforming garage on the site that violates the side and rear yard setbacks. She did emphasize that it's pre-existing non-conforming, but she wanted the applicant to be aware that if it was ever removed or replaced, it would have to be put in a conforming location.
Okay. Mr. Mallard.
I reviewed the application and I see no engineering issues with the location of the fence.
Okay. Ms. Maloney, please tell us what you did
And why?
and why.
So we purchased our home last March. We did a total reno. Everything was done here. There was no electricity or running water when we bought it. So we had a contractor that did all the work, did all the permits for us, everything like that. And then so we had the fence done. I guess was under the impression that the contractor was taking care of the permit, and I guess it was lost in translation. So that's why it was done without a permit. But Yeah, so we just have the fence up and it just goes along that walking path, that dirt path back there on South Ditmar Drive. So yeah, so there's a fence there that's not supposed to be there apparently.
Did you say that people walk along that dirt path? You wanted to
Yeah.
block them out for
Yeah.
safety and security?
What did you say?
Did you want to block them out for safety and security, strangers?
Yeah.
Okay, I got it. Okay, keep
Good
going.
idea. And you didn't realize that you needed a permit?
Well, I thought the contractor was taking care of it, like our other contractor had taken care of all the permits and things like that.
Okay. All right, I guess that's fine. And, so the fence is really there for security.
Security, yeah, for the people on the path and everything. And then also we have a very, 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 very large goose population here and a dog that likes to eat geese poop. So it does help keep the geese out of the backyard and my dog from the vet. So safety for us and for the dog.
Enough for me.
Can I ask, Henry, can we ask, the garage existed when you bought it, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. You understand that if you were, and there'll be a condition of this resolution, that if you ever decide to move it or take it down and try to rebuild it, you need to either put it in a performing location or come back to this board for further relief.
Yes, sir. Hopefully,
You could
hopefully
be-
they're all very pleasant, but I hope I never have to come back here again. So yeah.
I mean, you can repair it and paint it and fix it up and everything else, but you can't, if it comes down, it can't go back up. to what's
Okay.
in place. Thank you. I'm good.
Any questions from the board? Anyone here from the public to be heard? Need a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion, we close the public hearing, Worrell.
Need a second.
Second, Beal.
Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Mamie,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Chepiga.
Yes. Action.
Worrell offers for a positive resolution to let the fence remain.
Need a second.
Beal, second.
Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Mamie,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Chepiga.
Yes. Thank you. Good
Thank-
luck.
Thank you.
So Chairman Chepiga,
Yes.
the next case, number 10 on the agenda, he withdrew his application today.
Nice. With, that brings us to case.
I can't find the packet.
No further action to be taken on that, right?
Now, you got that in writing? Amy?
I'm sorry, yes, I have it in writing.
Sent you an email, whatever it is, it's covered.
Yes.
That's applications been withdrawn. That's it.
Okay, which brings us to case 11. Ralph Bowe, block 25, lot 143, 423 Brookside Avenue, Oakhurst, zone R4. This is an application to install a generator with an elevated wood platform within a floodplain within the side yard setback. Amy, please mark the packet.
Okay,
Mr. Bove, are you here? Mr. Bove? Mr. Bove?
I know there was some back and forth with the engineer this afternoon, because he didn't understand the requirement of the engineer, but I think it was explained to him.
Mr. Malak, did you speak to Mr. Bove?
I did speak to Mr. Grove.
And is Mr. Bove, well, Mr. Bove has to be available.
Right, is he planning on coming?
I thought he was.
Right. Is he called in?
yes.
Do we have anybody on the phone? Amy, that's,
I'm looking at
Yeah.
everybody.
I can call him.
Excuse me?
I can call him if you would like.
no, we can wait till later on in the meeting. Maybe he's on the phone. Can't you call in? I don't know how that works. Okay.
Okay, I'm gonna move on and then we can come back, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, next case is case 12, Paul Flemat. I'm sorry, I screwed that up. Lamia, block 33, lot 51.01, 1606 Holbrook Street, Oakhurst, New York, Oakhurst, New York. Oakhurst, New Jersey, zone R4. This is an application to keep an in-ground pool constructed within side yard setback. 10 feet is required and 9.2 foot exists. Attorney for the applicant, Terrence M. McNamara. Mr. McNamara, are you here?
I am.
Amy, please mark the packet.
Okay.
Mr. Higgins, you're up.
Yeah, okay, yeah, it's a very brief report. The applicant is requesting to maintain a 13 square foot portion of an existing pool and an approximate 10 square foot portion of an existing patio that are located within required setbacks. The following variances are necessary. The ordinance requires that accessory structures other than buildings such as swimming pools, patios, etc., maintain the required 10-foot side yard setbacks. The existing pool is set back 9.2 feet to the water's edge on the north side of the site, and the existing patio is set back 8 feet from the rear lot line. And just to correct my report, it's 10 feet required from the side and rear yards. I have no concerns with either of these variances. There's sufficient room and screening on the north side of the site to mitigate the minimal deviation, which is 9.6 inches to the pool setback. The portion of the patio that does not conform is rounded so that any impact is minimal at most.
Thank you. Mr. Matlack, any engineering on this?
The only comment I had was that the Township Engineers report from June of 2020 indicated that a recharge trench, underground pipes, and a bubbler have been installed but were not as-builted. I'd just like a little clarification on that.
Yes, my understanding is that the bubbler was not installed, but the recharge trench and the underground pipes were pre-existing and were used in the application with this pool. And I believe that the report from the town shows that they have already inspected the tie-ins to the existing pipes, and I believe that those were found to be appropriate.
Okay. Yeah, I have no other concerns about that.
By the way, that was Mr. McNamara, the attorney, that was answering that question.
Correct, sir.
Okay. Okay, so it's there. It's minimal. Any questions from the board on this?
Well, do we have any testimony from the applicant?
The applicant, Mr. Flamia, is here tonight. He may be trying to unmute, but he is here.
Yeah, maybe you can tell us how this happened.
Paul, I can, yes, you just came off mute.
Yes, I'm here. So
Wait,
the
excuse me, Henry needs to swear.
Please, please
Okay.
raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
yes,
Please state your name and address.
Paul Flamia, 1606 Holbrook Street in Oakhurst.
Okay. Could you please tell us in your own words how this happened?
It was either when the pool company did the mark out for the pool when it was installed, whether it was the mark out itself when they dug the pool or when they installed the pool. It was a tight area, and you know, it just happened to be within the setback. It was a mistake. So it wasn't planned to be that way.
It was a mistake by the pool company.
Yes.
Great. Okay. Well, I guess the pool's in. There's really nothing we can do about that. So it's almost nothing. Are there any questions from the board?
I have one question of
Sure.
Jim and Ben. Jim's report says that the pool surround is 6.2 feet and 7 is required. Is that another variance?
Say that again.
Okay, Ben's report says that the as-built shows that the setback is 9.2 feet and that the pool surround is 6.1 feet, where 7 feet is required.
No, that's not the case. That report is wrong. The pool surround is 3 feet wide. And as long as it's 3 feet wide or less, it doesn't require a variance, regardless of where it's located.
Okay.
Okay.
So
I think he was thinking because the pool had to be 10 feet, the pool surround had to be 7 feet. And the zoning officer said if there is any kind of a sidewalk, which that 3-foot pool surround is, that it doesn't require a variance.
But if that pool surround is 4 feet, then it does.
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay, all right, okay.
Good.
That's a new one.
Thank you for that clarification.
No, otherwise we would have added a variance.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, that we
Okay.
think that would be a record. That's fine. Thank you.
Once again, any questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Amy, please, I need a motion to close the public hearing.
Make a motion, we close the public hearing, Worrell.
Need a second?
Beal, second.
Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Mamie,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Shephaka.
Yes. I'll offer positive resolution. I need a second.
I'll second Worrell.
Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Mamie,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Shephaka.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Next case, case number 13, Anthony Ercolino, block 36, lot 30.01, 1231 Deal Road, Ocean, New Jersey, R1. This is an application to construct a detached one-story pavilion, which includes a workshop area, orchid room, and covered patio with variance for minimum rear yard setback. Amy, please mark the packet. Mr. Ercolino, are you here?
Yes, I am.
There you are. Okay. Mr. Ercolino, please raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Anthony Ercolino, 1231 Deal Road, Ocean, New Jersey.
Okay. Mr. Ercolino, you've testified before this board like a million times, right?
A couple of times, yeah.
So, okay. Mr. Higgins.
Okay, I think I'm setting a record for short reports tonight. The applicant's requesting to construct an approximate 690 square foot accessory building for the purpose of a workshop and a flower room with a 280 square foot covered patio. The building will also contain a toilet and sink, but no kitchen or sleeping facilities. The following variance is necessary. The ordinance requires that the rear yard setback for accessory buildings exceeding 150 square feet in area meet the minimum setback requirement of the principal building, which is 40 feet. The applicant is proposing a 32-foot rear yard setback. I have no concerns with this variance. The lot is an unusual lot and abuts open space to the rear. The 8-foot deviation does not create any significant impact, particularly since the building is less than 15 feet tall. The proposed location makes the rear yard of the residence more usable. The zoning officer expressed a concern that the proposed building might be used for commercial purposes. The applicant should clarify that it is to be used for personal purposes and not commercial purposes. And I think
Yes,
there's documentation on record, the applicant's provided that documentation.
Mr. Matlack, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The only couple comments that I had were we would like to see a minimum of 2% pitch away from the building foundation. And the roof leader discharge should be directed away from adjacent properties. The roof leaders are not shown on the plan, so we could just get some clarification from the homeowner. They do show us a little bit of grading on the plan. It appears that the proposed grading directs water in the same direction as it currently is going towards the rear of the property. So those are the only those are the only two comments I have.
Mr. Ercolino, I would guesstimate that you know how to do this, so you want to tell us what you're doing?
Sure. The structure for my use is, yes, the workshop area and this personal use only, and the flower room is for my wife. It may someday be a pool house for the next owner, and that's the reason why I elevated it a little bit, so that when I put the pool in, and I already kind of figured out where the pool elevation would need to be in the yard, just to the, I guess, east of this building. So that's why I have my grades where they are. And yes, I can have the roof leaders lead out towards the rear. Won't be an issue. The neighbor's property sort of elevates as well. There's kind of a low spot right between the two of us. So none of that will really be an issue.
Mr. Ercolino, I don't get this opportunity often. Are you qualified to write drawings for gutters and leaders?
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you.
I've done that once or twice too.
I don't have this opportunity often, so I have to take my chances when I can.
If not, we can recommend a good architect.
There you go.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
We'll make those two items a condition of approval.
Right.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, I think the grades that I show around there are showing that it's moving away. And yeah, I guess the area that's to the southeast of the structure is kind of leveled off, but it's going to tail off right now to the east and north, and a little bit to the west. So it's just where the natural grading is going to go, and that's where it's already going. In terms of that 2%. So we can make sure that that's going to happen. And the leaders are easy enough to make them lead out to the rear.
Perfect. Anything else, Mr. Ercolino?
Yeah, I want to clarify the setbacks. I know on my drawing there, I have in there that it required a side and rear setback, only because I wasn't sure. When the property was created, the resolution said that the principal setbacks needed to be 40 feet all the way around. So it never really truly gave me a front, rear, or side yard setback. So that's why on my drawing in my chart, it shows side and rear variance requirement. Now, I'm not sure if that's just for the principal building, and maybe that's why it wasn't addressed in terms of this accessory structure. Because I did keep it 20 feet off because I felt that that was probably proper for the side yard in terms of the R1 zone. So I just wanted to clarify that and make sure it's on record that we're not getting away with anything.
If that's the case, I wasn't aware of that requirement in the subdivision. So maybe just to be safe, maybe the board should consider granting a side yard setback variance of 20 feet also. That is on the plans, just wasn't.
Yeah, I just want to make sure we're not going to have a problem.
Okay. What was the required side yard?
Well, it was 40 feet all the way around, whereas 20 feet is the typical side yard setback for the R1 zone.
That's correct.
That was per the subdivision approval?
Yes.
Okay, I got it. So you want to, well,
I mean, it's an accessory structure, but again, they said the setbacks were 40 feet all the way around. That was for the principal structure when I constructed the house.
is that a zoning requirement, or is that going to be a deed restriction requirement? How can they?
I don't know. When it was subdivided, I was told that I had to keep it 40 feet off of all the property lines. So I did that, but I wasn't sure about what happens when I do an accessory structure. So I listed it anyway. I just want to be sure that we're not going to have any issues.
Well, but the zoning officer didn't pick it up.
No, she didn't. She stated that it was only the rear yard setback.
Okay.
Which is my report, basically is taken from her report.
But you're telling us there was a requirement of the subdivision?
When the lot was created, when it was subdivided off of the front lot, because it's a flag lot.
There was,
That was one of that was one of the requirements in the resolution.
that the principal structure be 40 feet.
Correct. So I wasn't sure if it translated to the accessory structure that needed to meet the principal structure setbacks.
Well,
So I don't know where that.
if
where
the
that
board
goes.
is willing to grant it, I'll figure something out in the variance. I am not sure if something like that is not a zoning ordinance, so there would be possibly a restriction, but you know, I'm not sure if we have jurisdiction to change that, but the board wants to grant him a side yard setback of 20 feet. We can put in the resolution.
Okay.
I don't think it'll ever come up as an issue.
Yeah,
I'm not sure what jurisdiction we have, but we'll try.
I would agree with that.
Okay.
We'll mention it.
So, Mr. Ercolino, that's it, right?
You gonna
Yeah, I
match?
think that's it.
Are you matching the other building?
Yes, the stone and the stucco will match the house
Perfect.
and the roof shingles. Hopefully
Roof, you know.
hopefully I can find the same shingle.
Well, yeah, try. I understand.
Okay. Questions from the board? No questions from the board? Questions from the public? Need a motion to close the public hearing?
Make a motion to close the public hearing, Worrell.
Need a second?
Beal second.
Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Mamie, Mr. Mamie, Chairman Shepherd,
Yes. I'll offer positive resolution.
I'll second, Worrell.
Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Mamie, Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Shepherd.
Yes. Is Mr. Mamie still with us? Mr. Ercolino, good luck. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a nice evening.
You too.
Take care, Anthony.
So
Well,
we breezed through that. So,
let me ask if Tom Hirsch is here. Tom Hirsch, are you here yet? Because I told him.
why don't we take 5, come back, see who's here, and then, but we really can't start the next 6 case.
I was gonna ask Tom, and then I see Jen Krimko here.
I will text Jen Krimko because I believe that she was a little overzealous in her noticing, and I
What
believe.
does that mean?
I believe that she can be heard this evening,
Earlier than 7:30.
earlier than the 7:30 timeline.
Why don't you text her?
I'm doing that now.
Richard Tilton, is Richard Tilton on? I was gonna ask
His name.
I'll be back in 5. Or
Is
3.
Mr. Beauvais back?
Amy, I sent him an email to say that if he was not here this evening without signing the time waiver, that his application would be over. So we didn't want him to have to.
And I'm gonna suggest if any of the attorneys, Tom Hirsch, Jen Krimko, Richard Tilton are here, if they want to waive that time thing and start now at their own peril, we can do that too. I wouldn't do it to non-represented parties, but we'll see. All right, so you're gonna text Jen, right? Tell her we're ready for
I
it?
just did.
Okay, and we're gonna,
Yeah, Jen renoticed for the Mizrahi application for 6 o'clock.
okay, so where is she?
She's texting right now, going crazy.
Well, it's Jen. Okay. All right, so we're taking 5 and we'll see if any of the attorneys show up.
Hey, Mark, I'm here. It's Richard.
Yeah,
Okay.
Richard, yeah.
Yeah. But
Okay.
I'm waiting for my clients because I told them it was going to be, a little bit later. So
Okay. As soon as they come, let us know. I don't know if you
thank
heard me at the
you.
beginning of the meeting. I thought that your notices probably always said 7:30.
Yeah, it did. I think it said 7:30.
Yeah, I know. So that's why we said that those cases are carried. We really can't start till 7:30, but I didn't realize we're ready now. But we'll see. Okay. We have
Thank
two
you.
we're looking for, so I'm taking
Thank
5
you.
minutes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Amy, why don't you call the roll again, just to make sure we're here?
This would be, we're gonna do number 3, right?
Right.
Mr. Fuller,
Here.
Mr. Worrell,
Here.
Mrs. Beal,
Here.
Mr. Mamie,
Here.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Here.
Chairman Shepherd.
Here. Good enough. This brings us to case 3, David Mizrahi, block 12.05, block 14, 269 Lawrence Avenue, Ocean, R4. This is an application to construct a covered front porch on a pre-existing non-conforming dwelling that does not meet the requirements required front yard setback on Lawrence Avenue. Attorney for the applicant, Ms. Jennifer Krimko. Good evening, Ms. Krimko. Before you start, Amy, please mark the packet.
Okay.
Mr. Higgins,
Oh, okay.
quick review. Mr. Higgins. Mr. Higgins. Where did Mr. Higgins go? He was here a minute ago.
I will try to give Mr. Higgins a call.
Mr. Matlack, how about you?
He didn't have, oh, look who it is.
Thank you.
Hi, Ben.
Mr. Chairman.
There's Jim.
Hi, Jen. Mr. Chairman, I did not submit a review for this application because Mr. Fitzgerald had previously submitted a review. I did look at the plan, so I can tell you that Mr. Fitzgerald indicated he had no issues with the plan. The only thing I would say is that with regards to the proposed dry well, that the roof leader should be connected into it. It's likely that it was going to be the case, but just a quick clarification on that would be fine.
Okay. Mr. Higgins, are you here?
You're on mute, Jim. Still on mute. There you go.
Muted. Okay. I'm just trying to find the board packet.
It's the email that Amy sent at
I know it is, yeah. But hold on 1 minute. I can pull it up another.
4:06 p.m.
You want me to kind of jump in with a preview in an effort to keep it moving, or?
No, I'm here. I got it.
Okay.
Okay. I can read my report. Okay, so the applicant has submitted revised architectural plans addressing the comments of my May 19th, 2021 report. This report supersedes my prior report. The applicant is requesting approval to construct a covered porch, walkways, a driveway, and a dry well. In addition to the above, the submitted plan shows the relocation of an existing hedgerow along Michael Avenue from within the right-of-way to just inside the property line. The maintenance of that hedgerow and the hedgerow on the Lawrence Avenue frontage at 8 foot high, and the location of a swing set in the Michael Avenue front yard. The existing trampoline that is located in the common front yards of Michael Avenue and Lawrence Avenue is to be removed. Plans show an existing shed that is situated in a non-conforming location on the east side property line, an existing 5 foot high open fence in the Michael Avenue front yard, and an existing 4 foot high solid fence in the Michael Avenue required front yard. The site is a conforming 100 foot wide, 100 foot deep, 10,000 square foot corner lot with a single family residence, pool, permanently installed swing, play structure, and trampoline. The existing residence does not conform to the required front yard setback on Lawrence Avenue. And variances are the minimum front yard setback. The ordinance requires a 30-foot minimum front yard setback, and the plan proposes 21.3 feet to the new covered front porch on the Lawrence Avenue frontage. The existing front setback on Lawrence Avenue is 26 feet. The applicant should provide planning testimony as to the character of the immediate neighborhood, particularly as it relates to the building setbacks and whether there are similar existing porches in the immediate area of the site. Accessory building setback, the ordinance requires that any accessory building 150 square feet or less in area must maintain a minimum 5-foot side yard setback. The existing shed on the east side of the site is set back 3.2 feet. This needs to be addressed by the applicant. Accessory structure setback, the ordinance requires that accessory structures maintain a minimum 30-foot front yard setback and a minimum 10-foot setback from the side and rear property lines. The existing swing set is set back 17 feet from Michael Avenue. The 6-foot wide pool surround scales to 8 feet from the rear property line. Testimony should be provided to justify these variances. It should be noted that there appears to be no other location on the site to locate the swing set. The pool surround is an existing condition that cannot reasonably be remedied. Maximum fence hedge height, the ordinance limits the height of a fence or hedge in the required 30-foot front yard setback to 4 feet. The site has an existing 5-foot aluminum fence in the Michael Avenue front yard. In addition, 8-foot high hedges are proposed along substantial portions of the Michael Avenue and Lawrence Avenue front property lines. The applicant needs to provide testimony as to the positive and negative reasons for the granting of these variances. With regard to the hedges in the front property line, the board is routinely required that these be a minimum of 15 feet from the property line on one street of a corner lot and maintain the required front setback on the other street. Minimum solid fence height, the ordinance limits the height of a solid fence within the required 30-foot front setback to 3 feet. The plan shows a solid 4-foot high fence in the Lawrence Avenue front yard, which apparently surrounds the existing air conditioning units. If the board approves the solid hedge 15 feet from the property line of Michael Avenue frontage, I see no problem with the granting of this variance.
Thank you, Mr. Higgins. Ms. Krimko.
Thank you very much. What I'd like to do is move a few things into evidence, then give a little summary because it sounds much worse than I think it is. And then I'll let you know what I have here tonight. So A1 is going to be, and I'm going to share my screen when the time comes. A1 is the plot grading plan prepared by Chet Sermont, and that's revised through 4/23/21. A2 are the architectural plans prepared by W. Lerman Architecture, and those are revised through 6, I got to blow it up on my screen so I could see it, 6/3/21. A3 is a marked up color rendered grading plan that we just moved in as A1, showing the limits of the corner lot. And then A4 is a planning exhibit prepared by our professional planner, and that consists of 3 pages, and 4 pages, I'll have him go through that. So just briefly, and if I can't, let me see if I, no, if you could let me share my screen, Ron.
Amy can. She's in complete control.
Amy, may I share my screen? There we go. Let me know when you can see my screen.
Got it.
Okay.
There it is.
So when this application started, there were no trees up at all. And it was purely to add this covered front porch to enhance the front of the house, to give some sitting area for the owners to sit, and actually to just aesthetically improve it. In between the filing of the application and when it finally got heard, and through Jim's report, we discovered that there were a lot of existing nonconformities that we were unaware of. One being that my client planted trees for privacy in his side yard, as you can see here. Let me blow this up. As my client planted here, and because of the extensive unpaved right-of-way between Michael Avenue and the property line, the trees were actually planted in the township's property without his knowledge. He thought that was part of his property at the time he planted them. And unfortunately for all of us, he didn't know at the time that you can't have a hedge taller than 4 feet in a front yard. So those are these hedges. The trampoline is being removed. The pool surround, the pool fence, that's all existing. That's not part of this application. So, you know, how it got there, it likely was there at the time my client purchased it. We're seeking to get it approved formally tonight. This fence around the air conditioning, again, it's only 4 feet high. It's a white fence. And the shed as well was permitted likely for 5-foot setback. And when it was placed down, it was put at 3.2. The planner is going to talk about all of the justifications for it. But I just want the board to understand that this was not an intention to violate the ordinance and come in and ask for a lot of relief. We literally were coming in only for the front porch and only discovered all these nonconformities. Jim had indicated that we were proposing a walkway and a concrete drive. We're not. Those are existing. They're not changing, as you can see on the plan. In the interest of expediency, because I think that really the meat of this, Jim had indicated that the architectural plans now addressed his concerns, and I do have the planner to offer the planning testimony. I'd like to just quickly show you that the existing house, as shown on the architectural plans, just has a slight bump out over this window, and all we're proposing to do is just add a covered front porch. And when you look at it from the side, you can see that this portion of the house already bumps out this far, and that has a covered awning over it. So all we're doing is adding 5 feet of porch from where this frontage currently is. And you can see it on this side, how it's limited to 5 feet. And that was what, and you can see here how there was an existing roof over this portion here. And all we're doing is adding this portion and then having the 2 roofs match. So that's the sum and substance of the application. Unless the board has any questions for the architect, what I'd like to do is introduce the planner, have him walk through his exhibits and the justification for the variance relief. I will note that the existing trees are in the right of way and are will grow significantly taller if left on their own. We recognize we don't have the right to plant trees in the township's right of way. We are proposing to move them onto the property line and keep them at the 8-foot height to balance, as you'll hear from the planner, the township's interest in not having fences in a front yard in excess of a height, and my client's ability to actually have a private play area for their children. With regard to Jim's suggestion of moving it 15 feet off the property line, we are already close to that amount off of the roadway. And I think if we moved it 15 feet off, it would essentially render this side yard, which is really used for the recreation because the pool is in the backyard, unusable in its entirety. So does the board have any questions for the architect, Mr. Chair, or should I move right on to the planner?
I don't have any questions for the architect. Does anyone from the board have questions for the architect? Okay, let's move right on. Let's move right on to the planner.
Okay, and I just took my shared screen down just so I could introduce you to John Barry, a principal at Hire and Gruel Planners. Have him sworn and put his qualifications on the record, and then I'll reshare my screen.
Okay, Mr. Barry, please raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Have you ever testified before this board before?
I have not testified before this board, no.
Okay, could you tell us about your credentials? And
Sure. I have a Master's of City and Regional Planning from Rutgers University. I'm a licensed planner and a member of the American Institute of Certified Planners. I represent 5 or 6 boards regularly throughout the state, and I've appeared before probably another dozen or 2 in private testimony like this. Most recently, Summit, Bound Brook, Milburn over the last month or so.
And you're the redevelopment planner for Allenhurst, as well as your firm is the redevelopment planner for Asbury, at least they were. So
We
you're
used to be for Asbury, currently am for Ellenhurst, correct?
Okay, we'll accept your credentials.
Thank you, sir.
Please
Okay.
tell us,
So why don't you, you want me to reshare, John, and
Sure.
bring your exhibit up?
That would be good.
And then you can just tell, I love being Vanna, as the board knows, so you tell me when to flip and I will.
Sure. So just briefly, you heard between Jim and Jennifer, you heard about all the variances, so I'm not going to belabor the details.
Right.
Just want to get everyone oriented and organized with the neighborhood. This is an aerial photograph taken from Google Earth from 2016. The reason why I chose one that's a little bit older is this is the most recent one that's doesn't have leaves on the tree, so you can see the lay of the land a little bit better. So this shows you have kind of a pattern with houses of different sizes, houses of different setbacks, staggered a little bit, going up and down the blocks. I'm focusing primarily on the 269 Lawrence Avenue, our subject property at the corner of Lawrence and Michael, and then the block moving east from there, and the block moving west across Michael. Those were the blocks that I really took a hard look at because I think they're most relevant to the neighborhood context. Jen, can you go to the next? Thanks. So this is our most up-to-date version. You can see this is a 2020 aerial. I've identified some specific properties that I'll show pictures of just to kind of get the on-the-ground, straight-ahead look. So our upper left corner, first couple pictures are.
Sorry, I went the wrong way.
These were taken by myself. I have the date on the top. I think it was July 1st, July 2nd. So this is the subject property. You can see the hedgerow in the front, the White House. The porch area is roughly, the proposed area for the porch is roughly between the little covering, barely covering on the front door today, and the part that's sticking out, as Jen mentioned. So that's the area where the proposed front porch will be located. The second picture moving over shows the location of the existing hedge. And as you can see, the hedgerow along Michael is much closer than the hedgerow along Lawrence. And in both cases, there's a substantial amount of lawn area that extends from the edge of the pavement to the property line. It's about 15 feet on both sides. For reference, what we're proposing is to bring the hedge that's on the Michael side into about in line with that fire hydrant that you can see. So that's where it would be relocated to into the property, leaving grass lawn area similar to what you see here wrapping around the other side on Michael. This is a picture looking south on Michael today, or July 2nd rather, but the conditions that you would see if you went out there today, the hedgerow kind of moving into the background is our hedgerow in question. You can see the property behind 269 has some fairly dense landscaping, more or less in line with the property line. And you can see the property across Michael immediately at the corner of Lawrence has some fairly dense landscaping that's almost out to the pavement, to the curb line. Then just looking at a sampling of some other, and this is the bottom left corner of the exhibit here. This is the landscaping that exists at 277 Lawrence, which is the immediate property across the street. So you have not a hedgerow per se, but some fairly dense evergreen landscaping that's approaching the pavement there. Moving down the street a little bit, just looking at some other homes that have some similar front yard hedges. 258 Lawrence, which is the opposite side of the street, a few houses to the east, has a small area of front yard hedge. 263 Lawrence, which is on the same side of the street, down a few houses, similarly has a front yard hedge that's quite close to the property line.
And these don't, and I know we're going to talk about it, but these are interior lots that have these. This isn't even a corner lot where they need it because they have limited use of their side yard.
That's correct. Yes, these are both interior lots. And then the sampling of pictures on this side is just to show, number one, that covered front porches are not uncommon in the neighborhood, and also that there's really a mix of architectural styles, and some of which traditionally lent themselves to front porches and others that don't. You see a lot of ranches and split level, or not necessarily split level ranches, more so in this neighborhood, that don't typically have a front porch, but a small overhang, small area. And what we're proposing is not a large wraparound porch or anything. It's more just a covered entryway with a little bit of space to sit and socialize.
Okay.
And the last page of this exhibit is the tax map sheet. I believe it's sheet 36 from the township's tax map. Our property at the corner of Lawrence and Michael, the purpose of showing this is to show that both Lawrence Avenue and Michael Avenue have 60-foot wide rights of way. In the vicinity, Jerome Avenue and Wilson Avenue also have 60-foot wide rights of way, but after that, everything moving out from around these immediate blocks has a 50-foot wide or 40-foot wide right of way. So this is relevant to the amount of grass that we have between the pavement and the property line, where on this specific block in this specific neighborhood, the conditions are a little bit different than they are on a lot of blocks, because we have that extra lawn area where the street itself isn't any wider, but the right of way is.
Okay, so in light of all of this, from a planning perspective, how would you justify the relief that we're seeking?
So the way I look at this is we have three separate categories of things that we're dealing with here. Number one is the desire to provide for kind of a public facing social space and a cover of the front door in terms of the front porch. It provides a covered entrance. The trend in terms of architecture, I think there's been ebbs and flows in terms of the popularity of front porches. This home and the porch have some echoes to the craftsman styles that are popular in the early 20th century. A lot of the houses in the neighborhood moved away from that in the mid-century styles. But I think the porch fits well with the architecture of the house, and it provides a social space that's public facing, takes advantage of the nice neighborhood feel. The second category is looking at providing private space for safe, secure family activities. Right now, because this property is a corner lot, it's restricted in how much area it has.
And let me share this again. I'm sorry, John,
Sure.
I took it down too prematurely.
So this exhibit that Jennifer mentioned is the colorized version of the plot plan. On the right, you see with the yellow bar and the red bar. The yellow represents the 30-foot front yard setback to Lawrence Avenue. The red represents the 30-foot front yard setback to Michael Avenue. Taken together, you're left with the area where the pool is and not much else. So in order to provide for some outdoor recreational space for the family, for the children, for the play equipment, and to have that sense of privacy and safety and security, really on a corner lot, there's a hardship associated with the setback requirements that limit the amount of space that's available. If this were an interior lot, only the yellow portion would be restricted. So we'd have that whole red area would be available, which is about what we're asking to do here with the hedges that are proposed.
While we're on this, John, just to point out, so the trampoline is here and we're eliminating it, and
Right.
the playhouse was right at the property line going in an east-west orientation. We're moving it as far away from either front yard as we possibly can, while keeping it away from the fence as well as the pool. So in your opinion, is this really the only location where this play equipment can go?
Yes, and I read and heard Mr. Higgins' comments about that really being the appropriate location for that, and I would have to agree.
Okay, and then we talked about, oh, and I'm sorry, and the pool fence is an open fence, and it's 5 feet high in this location, and it's setback 27.8 feet from the property line and well over the required 30 feet from the roadway.
Correct. Yes, and that's part of the fencing required around the pool.
Okay, and I also,
Jen, can I interrupt you on what do you mean by the required 30 feet from the roadway?
what?
You said it's well over the required
No,
30.
I'm sorry, from the it's visually more than 30 feet away from the roadway, which the intent of the ordinance is to have the 30 foot from the property line. So we're basically giving that distance visually because of the enhanced right of way that's not been developed. I'm sorry, I wasn't clear on that.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to clarify.
And John, with regard to the shed, it was placed there, obviously someone placed in the wrong location, which is less than 2 feet off where it's supposed to be. It's up against a fence, and the neighbor's shed is literally up against the property line, correct?
That's correct. You can see both on the existing conditions and the proposed. There is a fence on the, there's a fence along the property line, and there is a shed on the neighbor's property that I believe is just it's on the property line, a few inches off. And
what's here on the neighbor's property?
That's the neighbor's driveway, and there is a nice landscaped area along the west side of the driveway, so between the fence and the driveway. So there's a little bit of buffering between the driveways that's been built into the neighbor's property.
And if the shed were moved over 1.8 feet, would there be a discernible difference in impact?
I can't imagine anyone who didn't see it happening would know that it had moved.
Okay. Okay, so, you established the hardship based on the corner lot. I think you talked about some of the purposes of the municipal land use law. Why don't you give us, in your planning opinion, how these can be justified based on the changes that we're proposing?
Sure. So there is an element of hardship based on the standards associated with the corner lot. And there are conditions specific to this piece of property in terms of the location of some of the structures that exist today that limit space available for certain activities. And the 15-foot wide, roughly 15-foot wide area between the edge of the pavement and the beginning of the property line certainly lessens some of the impact associated with what we're seeking. As far as the C2 balancing test, where advancing the purposes of zoning and the benefits outweighing the detriments, find that we are advancing purpose A, we're promoting public health, safety, and general welfare. Overall, the hedge offers privacy and security to the family. It offers privacy both ways, of course, because it does screen the neighbors from sounds and sights. The outdoor space is an important amenity, more so than ever with our ongoing pandemic struggles that hopefully are not coming back. But the need for private outdoor space is a huge amenity and essential for people's physical and mental well-being. The advances purpose G, providing sufficient space and appropriate locations for a variety of uses to meet the needs of all citizens. This is a single family zone. This is a single family residential use. So in terms of the use, it's where it's supposed to be. The proposed enhancements to the property are that they improve the utility of the property for the family that owns it. Contributes to the quality of the neighborhood. It's a diverse built environment. It's a very nice neighborhood, and certainly these improvements are meant to further that. And purpose I, to provide for a desirable visual environment through creative development techniques and good civic design and arrangement. The proposed design fits the overall aesthetic and the hedges, when manicured, kept nice at the 8-foot height we're proposing are consistent with other properties. They're in line with the landscaping on the immediate neighboring and across the street properties, and just contribute to the kind of wooded feel of some of the streets, particularly Michael Avenue. As to the negative criteria, I really don't see a substantial detriment here in any way. The neighbors are, these conditions in terms of the hedges, the various setbacks aside from the front porch, do have proof of concept in the field today. They're not encroaching on anybody else's enjoyment of their space. The moving of the hedges will open up the site triangle, will open up the area along Michael and allow for the consistent visibility down the street, and the hedges will be in line with the neighboring properties, as I mentioned. As far as the front porch goes, it's a fairly minor encroachment from what's existing today. It's consistent with some of the front porches and stoops that we see on other houses. If anything, I think it lends, it doesn't do anything to subtract from the neighborhood. It lends to the quality of the neighborhood. And finally, I reviewed the master plan. I reviewed the zoning ordinance. Certainly the master plan doesn't have any specific goals that apply to these situations, but it talks about promoting a desirable visual environment, talks about maintaining the character and value of existing residential neighborhoods. And I think that this project really does that. It's consistent with a lot of the other qualities that we see on the block. So conclusion, there are a variety of housing styles in the area. There are some existing landscaping that's very similar and compatible to what's being proposed. And the hardships associated with the corner property really cannot be discounted. The family, the Misralis that own the property have certainly desire to use the outdoor space available to them in a safe and secure way for their family. And the proposal here advances those purposes.
Thanks, John.
Thank you, Mr. Barry. Does anyone from the board have any questions for Mr. Barry? Does anyone from the public have any questions for Mr. Barry? Ms. Krimko?
Sir, that's all I have.
That's good.
You asked me to, I know you have a lot on the agenda. I mean, I think we have a unique situation where we have an existing house. We have a bunch of existing non-conforming conditions.
Right.
We're correcting it to the best of our ability to balance the township's interests and our interests. It's very unique in that it has all this excess right of way, so it visually makes the lot look much bigger, and it does achieve what you've done in the past to at least make the trees look like they're set 15 feet back from the right of way. It doesn't impede on any of the site distances. And I think we can all agree by looking at the architectural plans that, and then looking at the photo of the house, that the front porch is only an enhancement.
Are the trees along Michael now greater than 8 feet?
No. Yeah, they might be. They're close to 8. Yeah, they're probably a bit bigger, so we would trim them down to 8, keep them at the 8 feet. And the reason I chose 8 feet is because that really has been typically the number that this board has imposed in the past for variances like this, so I wanted to be consistent there.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're going to keep them at 8 feet or around 8 feet, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And I guess if the board agrees to move this in a positive direction, when will those trees be moved?
Soon as it's safe to, I would assume, Jim, that would be the fall.
That would be the fall, yeah, probably mid to late October, November.
I would say give us till November 15th and we'll have them moved.
Yeah. I don't want anybody to lose the trees. That'd be all right, Jim?
That should be all right.
Okay.
Okay.
If the board, okay, if you vote positive, that'll be a condition. Thank you.
Okay. So does anyone from the board have any questions about this application? Does anyone from the public want to be heard on this application?
No.
Amy,
I make a motion to close the public hearing.
thank you. I need a second.
Second.
Amy, please call the roll. Amy,
Yes.
please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Mamie,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Shephaka.
Yes. I'll vote for positive resolution on this. Understanding that Mark is going to put in the resolution that the trees have to maintain about 8 foot, but 8 foot or about 8 foot. I think it's okay. So I need a second.
Worrell seconds.
Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Mamie,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Shephaka.
Yes. Ms. Krimko, thank you once again.
And thank you for your service all these years, Henry. I hope that you will come back and visit.
I will.
right.
Thank you.
All
Appreciate
right.
it.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Bove, I believe Mr. Bove has signed on.
But we can, at this point, we can go back to the carried cases.
Okay, so I'm going to case number 1, David and Adele Koski, block 18, lot 15, 213 Cedar Avenue, Ocean. This is an application to reconstruct a detached garage to a cabana. The detached garage is pre-existing, non-conforming in that it doesn't meet the side and rear yard setbacks. Attorney Thomas Hirsch. Mr. Hirsch, are you here also?
I am here.
Okay, Amy, please mark the packet. Mr. Higgins?
Yes, and for some reason, my board packets are disappearing, so let me find this one here so we can,
Tom, told you 7:30.
okay, there we go. Okay, got it.
Right on time.
The applicant proposes to convert an existing garage into a cabana and to expand the structure by constructing a 423 square foot open canopy. The existing garage proposed cabana does not meet the ordinance requirements for side and rear yard setback for a structure exceeding 150 square feet. The ordinance requires 10-foot side yard and 30-foot rear yard setbacks. The existing setbacks of the garage are 6.1 feet on the side and 1.6 feet on the rear. No changes are proposed to the existing setbacks. The proposed canopy meets the required side yard setback and provides a 10.2-foot rear yard setback, which makes sense given the 1.6 rear setback of the existing garage. No other variances are required, and the proposed layout of the cabana clearly does not create the opportunity for it to be used as a second residence. Based on the above, I have no concerns with the granting of the application as proposed.
Thank you, Mr. Higgins. Mr. Matlack?
Mr. Chairman, I was not provided this application. I understand Mr. Fitzgerald did prepare a review letter, but it was not sent to me. Based on the description of the application, it doesn't sound like there are any engineering issues. If we can just get a little testimony about any potential changes in grading or any stormwater implications, but converting the detached garage does not sound like it requires any engineering.
Thank you, Mr. Matlack.
And for the record, Mr. Fitzgerald did prepare a report and had no significant engineering concerns. I think that's part of the packet. Bill's report.
Mr. Hirsch, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. as you just heard, this is a pretty simple, straightforward application. We have a garage structure that's existing, that pre-existing non-conforming setback issues described by Mr. Higgins. And the only change to the structure is going to be the addition of the canopy structure as mentioned, which is going over existing patio in front of a pool. That structure will actually meet the 10-foot side yard setback, even though the garage violates it, the structure of the garage. I'm just looking on the screen. Is Dr. Caskey on yet?
Yes, I am.
Okay, there he is. And Mr. Collins is our architect. He will be also testifying tonight. So I just want to call Dr. Caskey to give some brief testimony on the history of the property.
Dr. Caskey, please raise your right hand. Right hand. Do you affirm to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Okay, please state your name and address.
So David Caskey, K-H-A-S-K-I. It's 213 Cedar Street, Oakhurst, New Jersey, 07755.
Okay. Mr. Hurst, continue.
Thank you, Mr. Steinberg. All right, Doctor, you've owned this.
They look alike.
Okay. You've owned this property since when?
2016.
Okay. And you and your wife are the owners of the property?
Yes.
Okay. And after you bought the property, you went ahead and performed some very substantial improvements to the property. Is that correct?
Yes, we did.
Okay. And just generally give the board an idea of the changes to the structure that you made, and then also to the property itself.
Right. So basically, it was an older, I think it was a 1910 original house. So we basically left the existing basement, extended backwards about 8 feet, and added, renovated the first floor and added a second floor. So it's a 2-story structure with a basement. Basement's basically untouched from the prior structure. And the second, so that was the house structure. And then the second big thing is we added a pool in the backyard. Originally, the driveway was on, if you're facing the property, on the north side, and that was continuous with the existing garage structure. And what we actually did, we moved the driveway to the other side, just because the way the architect and the outside planner basically said that structurally, aesthetically would match better. So we did that, and we left the existing garage as is, just because we weren't sure what we were going to do with it at the time. So the garage basically faces the pool area, and then you have the house in the front, and then you have the garage, the driveway on the right side.
You obtained permits to do all the work you just described, correct, from the town?
Yes.
Okay. So after the improvements were done, the garage essentially could no longer function as a garage in terms of parking cars. You couldn't get cars back there with the location of the pool, the patio.
Exactly.
And the garage structure.
Yeah.
So now you retain Mr. Collins, who will be testifying as your architect, to give you a design to convert that garage to a usable use, i.e. a cabana for the pool, which the front doors of the garage face, correct?
Correct.
Okay. That's all the testimony I have right now from Dr. Caskey, because I want Mr. Collins to explain the architecture, why they did what they did, and how this functions in conjunction.
Okay, let's bring Mr. Collins on. Is he here? Here. Mr. Collins, please raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You state your name and address.
David Collins, 213 Holly Avenue, Lincroft, New Jersey.
Mr. Collins, you've testified before this board before, haven't you?
I have, yes.
I seem to remember a few times. Okay. Mr. Hirsch, you're on with Mr. Collins.
All right, so the board is accepting Mr. Collins as an expert in.
He's been here. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, Mr. Collins, you were retained by Dr. Katsky and his wife to prepare plans for a proposal that we have before the board to convert the existing garage to a cabana use, correct?
Correct.
And those plans are the plans that have been filed with the board, correct?
Correct.
And for preparing your plans or in the course of preparing them, can you tell the board what you did to come to the determinations of exactly how this design would work, what your initial preparation work was?
Certainly, we were not retained as the architect for the addition, expansion of the existing house. So our first order of business was to visit the site and look at the finished architecture of the home. We walked the property to look at what was in the backyard, how the pool was laid out, looked at a site survey to get our understanding of the bulk issues on the site. And we measured the existing garage structure. One quick note, the pool equipment is inside this garage structure. It's in the back left corner of the garage, which is a little bit unique. And so we compiled all that information and then came up with our design.
Thank you. Would you like to share your screen, show the plans for the cabana?
Sure. We just need permission.
Amy?
Did you get it?
Yes, just got it. Thank you.
Okay.
This drawing is the plot plan, and I'll start with this because it'll make it a little bit easier for everyone to understand the organization of the site and where everything is situated. Cedar Street is along the bottom of the sheet. The residence is in the northwest corner of the site, shown here. I'm putting my hand around it. And as Dr. Katsky said, the driveway was moved to the south side of the street, which makes a lot of sense, not only for access to the house, but there's a little bit more room on this side of the site. You can see how narrow the north side of the site is. Previously, that driveway, from what I understand, came up this narrow side and reached all the way back to this existing garage. So I'm outlining with my hand that existing garage, and you can see that the back of the site is slightly skewed, which creates that very short rear yard setback of 1.6 feet and the side yard setback of 8.1 feet. So the pool is directly behind the house, and where the block 18 lot 15 is, this is all lawn area. There's lawn area to the front near the driveway, and the ribbon along the north side is lawn as well. So what we've done is we took this non-conforming use and we didn't change the footprint of that non-conforming use. We just converted it. And
let me guess, that's non-conforming structure, not use.
Well, it's because of the setback. And so what we did in our architecture is we tried to pull the pieces that we want to add on to the building so that our expansion of the structure is conforming. So I'm going to flip to the architectural drawings now that everybody kind of sees where everything is. This is sheet A 1.01 of architectural drawings. I'm going to zoom in quickly to these two floor plans. On the top is the existing floor plan. You can see two garage doors and a pass door in the front. There was an existing sink and the pool equipment in the back left corner with venting pipes out to the north. So what we've done is we have created a utility room inside the garage or cabana, proposed cabana, that holds all the pool equipment and holds a washer and dryer for drying and washing towels. The balance of the area to the west, we created a small powder room. It's just a sink and a toilet. and a door from the exterior, so you could have access directly from the pool into this powder room. And the balance of the space to the south is used for an open cabana area. There's a small seating area and a small bar along the south side of the building. And that bar opens up to the larger lawn area, and we extended a new roof over to cover that bar and extended the roof towards the pool to cover an outdoor dining table so that it was all under shade for the use for the people in the pool. So there's some just rough study models. This is viewed from the northwest. You see the edge of the pool looking towards the cabana, the open portion. You can see the bar in gray. Step back a little bit further and elevated from the essentially the rear porch of the house. This is the way the cabana will look. And from closer to the end of the driveway, this view, and now an upper view. And the architecture, what we've done is we took the existing gable roof form of the garage and we converted it to a flat roof. And we did that for two reasons. Most importantly, we wanted to change the forms of the structure to be more appropriate for a cabana. The garage today looks very utilitarian. So by changing the roof form on the existing building and creating a new flat roof, it's much more fitting with the current architecture of the building. The house is stucco and wood, and we're proposing to use that same stucco and wood so that we unify the structures on the site. And we've also made a green roof over the portion, the canopy of the new roof. So that area that would be more pervious coverage, we've tried to mitigate that by making that portion a green roof.
So the proposal, as you're describing it, from an architectural standpoint, aesthetically is, in your opinion, an enhancement, not only of this property, but would be an enhancement to the surrounding properties also?
It certainly is. Just quickly, I know we don't need to spend much time, but at least you can see the comparison of the existing architecture, very utilitarian, and the new architecture that's more modern in keeping with the house.
And Mr. Higgins's report mentions that it's clear by the floor plan that this is not adaptable to living space. You're in agreement with that?
I am fully in agreement with that, especially since the bathroom leads to the outside. We only intend to close the structure with roll down shutters. There'd be no egress for this indoor, quote, indoor space. There's no egress windows, no egress doors, so it could not be used as a residence.
So is there kitchen equipment there, refrigerators, freezers, stoves?
There is. We're proposing an under-counter refrigerator and freezer, under-counter ice maker, and some under-counter freezers for ice creams and things like that. No stove, no oven proposed.
Okay. So
as you noted, the overhang does meet the side yard setback.
It does.
And the only other addition is on the side where the bar is, if you will. There is some additional patio, but we do not exceed lot coverage, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Hirsch. Are there questions from the board about this?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I do.
Go ahead, Mr. Worrell.
Will this cabana have separate utilities, gas, electric, and water running to it?
We will have gas, water, and electric running from the house to the cabana. Not
Okay,
separate.
One meter only coming.
That's
from the
correct.
house. Okay.
Correct.
Thank you.
If I could just jump in here, there is gas already there because the pool equipment is there for the heater. So there's not going to be, just going to need something for a bathroom.
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Are there questions from the public? Can we take down the architecturals for a moment? Please.
Let me stop my share.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Again, any questions from the public? Mr. Hirsch, does that bring a close to your case?
Does.
Okay. The the material that's on the garage now, is that going to match the color of the house?
The existing siding is a vinyl siding, and that will be removed and replaced with stucco that will match the house.
Okay. And
Mr. Shepherd, I would like everything to be marked into evidence. I don't think we did that in the beginning of this.
I did. I asked Amy to mark the packet.
Okay.
Right, Amy? Amy?
I did mark the packet, but not that. Is that
Oh, you didn't?
A1, the architectural plans?
Okay, let's bring that in also. I'm sorry.
No, I just want to make sure that.
I'm sorry, Mr. Kirk. I didn't.
No, I want to make sure Mr. Hirsch is happy, and when this is all said
Okay.
and done, you know.
Okay. Yeah.
Do we have copies of those? How do we mark them?
Isn't that what was submitted?
Well, Tom, you're gonna give us a set?
Well, I mean, boards do this differently. I mean, normally the application packet includes all the plans, everything submitted in support of the application, which is what was put on the shared screen. So
That's what I'm saying. Do we have it? We have all the architecture.
yes, you
Okay.
have all those documents. Yes, everything we shared was filed.
Then it's been marked as part of the packet.
Yes, that's
Okay, so that's marked, right? Okay. All right, so let's start this again. Any other questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Amy, please close the public hearing.
Okay.
Oh, I'm sorry. I need a motion to close the public hearing.
I make a motion, we close the public hearing.
I need a second.
A second.
Amy, please call the roll. Sorry.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Mamie, Mr. Mamie, okay. Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Chepiga,
Yes. Action?
I offer for a positive resolution.
I'll second. Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Mamie, Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Chepiga.
Yes. Mr. Hurst, thank you. Have a nice evening.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Take care.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Good night.
You're welcome. That brings us to case 2, Isaac Rawls, block 25.26, lot 8, 203 Cliffwood Road, Ocean, zone R4. This is an
Oh, my
application
client said 20 minutes.
to expand. This is an application to expand and cover a pre-existing non-conforming front porch within a front yard setback. Amy, please mark the packet.
Okay.
Mr. Rawls, are you here? Mr. Rawls?
Roas,
Oh, Roas, I'm sorry. Mr. Roas, are you here?
Yes. Hi.
Oh, there we go. Ooh, good. I'm sorry.
I've been listening for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and I just lost you guys.
Oh,
God.
Mr. Roas.
All right, do you hear
Thank
me?
you. Yep, I can hear you. Just hang on 1 minute. Mr. Higgins, please read your report.
Okay, another short one. The applicant proposes to add a 10-foot by 5-foot extension to an existing 7-foot by 5-foot front porch, which will result in a 17-foot by 5-foot uncovered front porch. The existing porch is set back 25 feet where the ordinance requires a 30-foot front setback. The extension will extend the non-conforming 25-foot setback an additional 10 feet to the south. The application states the purpose of the expanded porch is to allow for better maneuverability due to a medical hardship. No other variances are required. The expanded porch will have minimal visual impact. Depending upon the height of the porch, it may be reasonable to require low-level landscaping around the base of the porch. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Matlack, anything?
No substantial engineering involved with this. I will just note that the applicant's application says a by 6 foot front porch expansion as well as a 5 by 10. I just like a little testimony just to clear that up. But other than that, no engineering comments.
Okay. Mr. Ross, you are
Yes.
on. Oh, let me ask you to raise your right hand, please. Swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Please state your name and address.
Isaac Rowers, 203 Cliffwood Road, Oakhurst 07755.
Okay, Mr. Rowes, please tell us what you're doing.
Adding about a little bit of, I'd say about the numbers, because you were saying, I think about a 8 by 5 additional space on the front porch. Right now, we just have 4 steps going up. I just need to extend that to the right of it, approximately 8 by 5 or 8 by 4. I don't have the exact numbers. I was trying to get the plans pulled up here, but that didn't work out too well.
And you're adding this for what reason?
It's easier for me to maneuver.
Okay.
Because I have the issues with the walking. It's a lot easier for me to more room than just walking up the steps and, you know,
So
bringing
it's for
packages and
it's
such.
for safety reasons.
Yes.
In the winter, so you don't slip, so you don't fall. Right?
Yes. Yes.
Is this addition going to match your house?
Yes, it will.
Is the roof line going to match it? Is the roofing material going to match your house?
There's no roofing over it. It's just, I think, just a porch going from left to right. There's no roofing on it. It's an open porch.
Okay. There's no covering on top?
No.
Okay. All right. So basically it's for safety though.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else you'd like to add?
Me? No.
Okay. It's pretty good. Any questions from the board? Mr. Steinberg.
Yeah, Jim, are you looking for some landscaping along the front of the porch, bottom?
It depends upon how high it is. That from the plans, I couldn't tell how high the porch is. If it's going to be like a foot and a half, then maybe some planting should be in front. If it's going to be much closer.
Mr. Rowes, how high is the porch? How many
It
steps?
goes up. It's
How many-
4 steps. It's 4 steps up now. So I'd say maybe 3 feet. I don't know how much does each step go, but there is going to be planting in front of it. I'm looking at the picture now. In front of the additional porch, there is planting around the area, yes. Along with the left and right, everything was redone. We did a driveway, we did all of that, new walkways. So yes, that's the only thing that's just waiting, and it will be done to match all of the planting and.
Then maybe a plan should be submitted just for the record, so there's something on file. Then,
yes,
subject to my
for
approval.
sure. I think they do have it, but yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so you'll submit that, Mr. Ross, right?
Yeah, I believe you have it already, but I will do it again. Sure.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, there was a kind of an elevation view plan that was included in the package that confirms what Mr. Rowes has said. It looks like it's 32 inches tall, the porch, and it's got a 36-inch aluminum railing on top.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Good enough? Mr. Steinberg? Good enough?
Yeah, but Jim, you still want a little as to be
Yeah,
built,
just a little bit of landscaping in front of it to soften the impact.
but you'd like an informal plan submitted?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, yeah, I would like one submitted. I don't think one has been submitted.
Okay. Just
Okay.
Got it.
Mr. Ross, you'll do that, please?
Yes, absolutely. Submit the plan again. Is that what you want? You want?
No, the landscaping, what you're gonna plant in front.
Oh, yes, yes. I have that in front of me. If I could figure out how to share this thing, I'd do it, but definitely will submit that. Yeah.
That's okay. You just have to submit that.
So Mr. Higgins will go over with you if he wants anything else.
Okay. All right. Any other questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Need a motion to close the public hearing?
Make a motion, we close the public hearing, Worrell.
I need a second.
Second, Beal.
Okay, Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Mamie,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Shepherd.
Yes. Action, I'll vote for positive resolution.
I'll second the motion, Worrell.
Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Mamie,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Shepherd.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr.
Oh,
Rose.
thank you. May I ask you a question? Who do I submit it to? Do I send it to Amy?
Yes, yes.
Yes, send it to Amy, please.
You got it.
Thank you very
Okay,
much.
thank you, guys.
Next case is case number 4. Joseph Williams Jr., Block 194, Lot 2.22, 2 James Court, Ocean, Zone R3. This is an application to keep a patio installed with the rear. This is an application to keep a patio installed with the rear and side yard setbacks. Amy, please mark the packet.
Okay,
Mr. Williams, are you here?
I am. Thank you for having me. You said 2 James Court. It's 2 James Drive. So I don't know if that needs to be corrected or not.
Okay. I guess we just
The
correct.
lot and block number are right. So
Okay. Mr. Higgins, your report.
Sure. Okay, the applicant proposes to retain 2 sections of a pool patio that were inadvertently constructed contrary to the ordinance side and rear yard setback requirements. The ordinance requires pool patios and surrounds that are more than 3 feet wide to be located a minimum of 10 feet from the rear and side property lines. One small section of a 3-foot by 26-foot section of a larger patio that is located 7 feet from the rear property line, and a second small section is a 3 by 10-foot section of a larger patio that is located 7 feet from the rear property line. In both instances, the subject areas are simply extensions of the conforming pool surrounds. No other variances are required. Absent any engineering concerns, it is my opinion the variances are minimal and make sense with regard to both aesthetics and function of the site.
Thank you. Mr. Matlack, anything to add? Mr. Matlack, you're on mute.
He's done.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Just very quickly, it looks like there is, based on the construction, there is some drainage that's directed towards the neighboring property, to the side and to the rear. Maybe the applicant can talk about the drainage patterns in the yard. Where does the water flow naturally towards the road is what we're looking for, just to make sure there are no negative impacts to the neighboring properties.
Thank you very much. Mr. Williams, please raise your right hand. Where are you?
I'm here.
Okay,
Do you
please
see
raise
me?
your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Okay, please tell us what you're doing. Or what
Sure.
you're doing.
Joe Williams, 2 James Drive. Sure. The contractor put in the pavers. Then we realized it was not within the property setback. After seeing it, we recognized the value of actually trying to keep it and why we're seeking the variance. For safety concerns, we have older parents that come over, and with the cut-in, we thought it would create a safety concern. Additionally, we were kind of limited being on a corner property. with a small area that we had to build the pool, and didn't really seek any other variances and had to be stuck in that corner there. As far as the drainage concerns that were brought up, the water naturally drains towards the Little League field that's behind us. We do have downspouts that drain right out onto our property and go out onto our side yard towards Logan and then out towards James Drive. The back left kind of just comes out and drains towards and goes out to the front left and towards James Drive as well. So that's really it.
Okay. And the patio is at ground level?
Yeah, it's at ground level.
Okay. Okay. Substantially, I guess there's really nothing else here. Any questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Okay, Amy, sorry, I need to close the public hearing. I need a motion.
I make a motion to close the public hearing, Worrell.
I need a second. Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Mamie, Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Shephaka.
Yes. Action.
Worrell offers for a positive resolution.
Need a second.
Second.
Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Mamie, Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Shephaka.
Yes. Mr. Williams, thank you very much.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
That brings us to Nicholas Mayano, block 113, lot 4437, Wanamassa Point Road, Ocean, Zone R6. This is an application to construct a 1.5-story addition along with a screen porch addition, enclosure over the existing covered front porch, detached garage, addition deck expansion, trash enclosure, and driveway expansion. Variances are required for a minimum front yard setback or front side rear yard setbacks for the deck, paver pad walkway, and trash enclosure, as well as a variance for the driveway. Attorney for the applicant, Richard Tilton. Amy, please mark the packet. You good? Amy? Amy?
You not hear me?
I couldn't hear you. You mark it?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Mr. Tilton, I'm on a roll tonight, so let's keep it going, okay?
I've observed that. Yes, sir. You, are we going to do Mr. Higgins' report, or do you want?
Yes, we're going to do Mr. Higgins' report first. Mr. Higgins?
Okay. The applicant is proposing to construct a 1.5-story side addition, a screened-in porch addition, a covered porch enclosure, a detached garage, a deck expansion, trash enclosure, and a driveway expansion. I'm getting feedback. Are you getting feedback also?
I am.
Yes.
What? No? Okay. Okay. Following variances are necessary. Minimum front yard setback. Ordinance requires a minimum front yard setback of 30 feet. The existing and proposed setback to the open porch is 24.5 feet. The existing front porch is open and the applicant proposes to enclose the existing porch. Consequently, a technical variance is necessary for the enclosure of the open porch. The ordinance requires that accessory buildings over 150 square feet maintain the required 30-foot front yard setback. The proposed garage is set back 12.7 feet. Given the unique character of this area, it's probable that some relief is appropriate. I'll defer to the board engineer with regard to the appropriate setback. It appears the garage could be set back 19 feet. The applicant may want to set it back somewhat less than that, but I think they need to have some discussion on that. The ordinance requires the accessory structures maintain the required 30-foot front yard setback and 10-foot side and rear yard setback. Several accessory structures do not comply with this requirement. The existing deck has a 5.33 side setback, 8.5 rear setback. Since it's being expanded, even though the expansion does not violate the ordinance requirements, a technical variance is necessary. The proposed paver walkway is set back 24 feet from the lot line. Given the unique nature of this area of the site, I have no significant concern with regard to this variance. The proposed trash enclosure has a 4-foot front setback and a 2-foot side setback. And I believe the applicant's going to correct that situation, so I won't go into any more detail on that. The ordinance limits the width of a driveway to 20 feet in the front yard. Proposed driveway expansion at curb cut of 21 feet. I can't see any reason for the variance. It's very minor, but the driveway is coincident with the side of the garage. The garage door is 2.2 feet offset from the side of the garage. So if they reduce the driveway a foot, you're still having over a foot between the opening in the garage and where the driveway meets, where the driveway is. So I don't see a problem with reducing it to 20 feet. And that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Higgins. Mr. Matlack.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There was no grading plan submitted with the application. We do have a survey, but it does not show any of the proposed grades with the several additions to the property. I'd like to hear about some testimony on the grading, how it's going to impact neighboring properties, and if there is any proposed mitigation, such as dry wells or underground detention, like you've seen in some other applications already.
Thank you. Mr. Tilton.
Mr. Chair, as part of the applicant's packet, I just want to note the architectural plans as A1. They were prepared by N2 Architecture, revised through December 27th, 2020. And A2 would be 13 photographs depicting the subject property and surrounding properties in the neighborhood. Just as a brief statement, just to help accelerate the matter, the subject property is 37 Wanamassa Point Road. It fronts along Deal Lake at the north side of the property. It's presently improved with a modest-sized single-family house at about 1,400 square feet. The property is situated to the west of the property, and it has a double lot. There's an open lot to the side where the proposed garage is going to be placed. As the board might note, this is a unique section of town. It's in the Wanamassa section. All of the property is on the northeast portion of 37 of Wanamassa Point Road. They front along the lake. So the frontages of the house are on the lake, and the rear sections are on Wanamassa Point Road. That includes the garages. The garage in this instance is going to be oriented towards Wanamassa Point Road, and we'll get into the testimony as to the setback of it. But it's essentially because that's where the garages go on. That's where the garage will go on this property. The applicants have lived in the property for more than 15 years. They've made significant improvements to the property. It's a beautifully maintained, well-landscaped property. They hope to continue to live in the property. They love their neighborhood and their community. The application will allow them to reconfigure some of the interior space of the property, including a bedroom suite on the first floor. It will also give them extra room for a kitchen and dining room space, which is presently on the smaller side. The final component is the garage. The property does not have a garage now. It has a shed. They hope to install a one-car garage, and that obviously they'll be able to store their equipment, car, landscaping equipment, and the like in it. Mr. Nemrgut is with me tonight. He's our architect. I'd asked to have him sworn, and we can go through the plans quickly.
Okay, Mr. Namrgut, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Please raise your right hand. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name and address.
My name is Mark Nemrgut. That's Nemergut. Half of the firm of N2 Architecture. That's located at 516A Lincoln Avenue in Avon by the Sea.
In where?
In Avon.
Oh, okay. Have you ever testified before this board before?
Yes, 2 months ago. Yes.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. All right.
It was good. I'd ask that Nemrgut's testimony be treated as expert testimony for purposes of the application.
Yep.
Thank you.
Continue, Mr.
Okay. Mark, I guess, do you want to share your screen so we can go through the plan?
Yes, if I could ask for permission to do so.
Amy, Mr. Nemrgut wants to share the screen with the plans and review the plans.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let me see if I can do that. Okay, so I can do that. All right. So let me just 1 second here. Share screen. Okay. Okay. So this is a view of the current site plan. Everybody could see this, I presume. Let me just walk you through the site. We have the existing structure. Let me get this right here, and an existing front porch. The Wanamassa Point Boulevard or road is here on the bottom of the screen. And basically what we're planning or proposing, as Rich mentioned, is a modest addition off of the east side of the structure here and a detached garage here. That's pretty much it. The only other component to this was the front porch, which is here. It's existing. We're planning to infill a portion of that to enclose it, as Rich mentioned, for the master suite, leaving a portion of it open as it is now for allowing, covered from the rain and such when you enter the front of the building. Notable point here, this volume of the porch is effectively a one-story structure. It is not changing volume. We're just literally infilling the walls around the columns that are there.
Okay.
If I can go maybe to the first floor plan. Let me just scroll this over. Just walk you briefly through a floor plan. Again, the shaded area is where we're adding an addition. That's all compliant with the ordinance. The area in question is this porch area on the front of the building. Existing again, this is where we're adding it, and we're keeping this one little covered area here. In addition to this, there's also it's a two-story structure. So we're making a modest addition to the second story for a closet and such. Just in keeping with the architecture, it's a pretty lower pitched roof and not a full two-story there.
Okay.
So you're adding a master suite on the first floor?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yep. And as Rich mentioned, we're doing some modifications to the first floor to make it a little bit more modern and usable by today's standards. So one of which is the kitchen, dining area, and then of course, because it's such a beautiful piece of property being on the lake and all, a screened porch. And here, if I can just scroll to the elevations, what you see here is the existing structure here. Existing ridge line at the top. We're not exceeding, the addition's not exceeding any of the existing ridges, or it's all compliant with the ordinance. And then our proposed addition on the right side. And then a view from the lake on this side here, and then a view from the east looking west of the addition. So we really wanted to keep this in tune with the rest of the architecture and make it look like, honestly, it had been there for years. And that's why we have a couple different roof lines. We have a little dormer, just to soften it up and make it, personable and of a nice scale.
Got it. Can we go back to the garage for a minute?
Of course.
So the garage is here to the right.
Yes.
And the driveway, the garage is a one-car garage. So you can put one car in that garage. Where's the driveway? Can you put a car in the driveway?
Yes, actually, we feel that we could actually, and I know because they've done it, we could park 3 cars in this driveway. I believe the ordinance requires 2 cars for this lot for one residence. So we would be able to provide well beyond that with at least 3 cars in a driveway. Even if it was 2, that's fine, and 1 in the garage. So we would be well compliant with the ordinance. And as you know, parking is tricky on that road.
Okay. Got it. It is tricky over there, more than tricky. And there's a landscaped area in the front there.
Yes, this is all existing in between the 2 curb cuts. We're making no changes to those 2 curb cuts. And as noted in the planner's letter, I took the liberty of extending the driveway flush with the garage, if you will, but we see no reason why it needs to do that. So we're willing to just curve it and angle it over so that there's no change to the curb cuts from what is there.
So it's 20 foot, it'll be 20 foot, correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
The only other thing that I have a question on, and I know that some of our professionals usually ask, the plantings in the front there, they're not going to skew your view as you pull out, correct?
Correct. They do not. They're existing, Mr. Chair. There's no change in planting proposed there. And I can tell you that you can see through them. There's no visual impact for traffic purposes.
Okay, well, there's not much traffic back there either, but.
There's not. It's like a speeding highway back there, right?
I know. If you go more than 15 miles an hour, you're gonna hit a house.
It would be impossible to go more than 15 miles an hour.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I just, on my screen, I just pulled up the images that were submitted as a part of the packet.
Right.
Just so everybody could see, these are images of the site. That's the shed and the area approximately where the garage would be going. And this is a shot from the road looking at the driveway at the house.
We're still looking at the plan, Mark.
Oh, I'm sorry. How did
That's
that
okay.
not? Oh, okay.
But can we stay with the plan for 1 second?
Yes, of course.
So we have the garage, the garage is set back 12 feet 8 inches or 12.8 feet. Is that correct?
That is correct.
That's what we have it proposed. And there was discussion about whether or not the garage can be pushed backwards. I just wanted to basically talk about the fact that, the applicants met with the neighbor to the east, and they took great pains that the placement of this garage is oriented as close to the street as possible to mitigate any impact on the next door neighbor to the east, to his dwelling. If you can see, the dwelling super close to the property line. And we really kept it to the front to avoid any impact or encroachment on his residence. I mean, that was our paramount concern. Is that right?
That is correct. Yes, of course.
Okay. And additionally, I see that there's a big oak tree that sits behind or to the north of the garage.
Right there.
We're also trying to avoid any impact to the root system. We want to keep that tree, right?
Correct.
And I guess then the final other thing I want to note is to the property owner to the east, his garage is located right, like about maybe 2 feet off of their right of way. Is that right?
Approximately. Yep.
And then when I look at the property to the west, I also see that there's a garage that's located about 2 or 3 feet off of the right of way. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so the placement of the garage as proposed, it more than respects the existing conditions in the neighborhood. Is that right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, and we could push it back further and not even need variance relief. Is that right?
We could, but it would have some detriment to the tree and to the neighbors, as you mentioned.
All right, so the design actually is really to mitigate visual impact and to be consistent really with the garages and the development that exist along that road. Is that right?
That is correct.
Okay, and as to the garage, like the front yard setback and the side yard setback, would it be fair for me to say that that's essentially the new variance relief that's requested? Any other variance relief is essentially as-built existing conditions, is that correct?
Yes, including the porch. Yes, exactly. That's as built as well. Yep.
Okay, so
Correct.
all of our setbacks, the front yard setbacks for the house, the side yard setback and rear yard setback for the existing deck, none of those are being extended any further, is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, but by improving those existing systems, that basically trips a technical variance, right?
Yes.
Okay, and then the trash enclosure, Mr. Higgins suggested, and I believe the applicant has agreed, we'll move that. We can move that over to the bump out in the southwest section of the garage. We can put it over, we can construct it over in that area, right?
That's correct. Yes.
Idea.
All right, and Mark, let me just ask you, so we have it as 12 feet, 12.8 feet.
Yep.
Does it help to move the garage back like 14 feet, or can the trash enclosure be moved over there at 12.5 feet or 12?
Well, it would be a little tight with the enclosure there. I'm sure we could get it to work. It may not be a rectangle. It may be more L-shaped of some sort, but if we had to move it back maybe a foot or so, that would help.
All right. So we're requesting that our variance relief remain at 12.8 feet. We may be able to pull the garage back a foot or so, but again, really trying to respect the neighbor to the east and also respect the development in the neighborhood, and keep the yard and open space as open as possible. There's really no reason, although it would limit the usable yard area, which is otherwise it's beautiful.
Correct.
Okay.
Are you in closing where you're gonna put the garbage?
Yes.
Right?
Yes. You won't be able to see the beautiful Ocean Township recycling and trash bins.
Why not put it in the back?
It's because, Mark, in order to, like, you're able to roll the monster cans out. Again, like, this is a backwards house because the front of the house is on the lake. This is really the rear of the house. So the paver area will allow us to pull the cans through the garage. Otherwise we have to pull the cans all the way around the garage to the front of the house. There's no reason to put it on the inside.
Up to Jim. No, I meant in the back. I'm looking right there where the fencing just was.
That's what I'm talking about, Mark. You would have to pull the cans all the way across the lawn, then across the sidewalk and through the fence area. The cans they roll out to the front of the street. Again,
it's up to our planner.
Okay.
That's good with you, Jim, where they want it? Jim Higgins.
Jim?
Well, we'll get back.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Sure, Mr. Fuller, go ahead.
I was just wondering, the neighbor to the, I guess that's the east, do they have a garage out at the street like this already?
Yes, it's right where that pencil's, right where Mark is showing you that red line there.
Okay, sorry if I missed that before.
Yeah, that's all right. That's his garage, the neighbor to the east.
And likewise over here too.
Likewise on the west. They're all up right on the right of way. All of them back there.
So while, this road, in my neighborhood would be the front yard, this is more like a lane, right?
Yes, exactly.
Where people want the stuff all the way as close to the lane as possible rather than by their houses. So it would be argued, right? I don't know if the neighbors here, but they might not even want the garbage cans on the other side of your proposed garage.
That's true.
Because it'll be closer to where they will be spending their time frame.
Right.
Mr. Fuller, I can tell you from experience that you shouldn't even be able to drive back there. the streets aren't wide enough. The garbage, if Mr. Higgins agrees, the garbage really does belong where it is because it's just, it's a very tight neighborhood.
Well, yeah, and I know maybe he's muted or something, but he's actually recommended that in his report. And I spoke with him directly about it. And he said, yes, put it in that area. It's in his report.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Tilton, anything else?
That's it, sir.
Okay. If you could take that down so we can go. Are there any questions from other board members about this property?
Okay. Our engineer's report requires some sort of drainage.
Oh, yes. Yes, I'm sorry. Mark, can you speak to that real quickly? There's
Yes,
some concerns about the drainage, if you would.
yes. Yep, give me 1 second to, I guess I don't need to share my screen for this, but if I could, do I have permission to do that? Yes, okay. Okay, so effectively the lot is fairly level, if one could imagine. But really with the contours that are there now, everything on the front of the property or on this side of the property here effectively drains towards the road. And everything on the back effectively drains to the back of the property. With our proposed improvements, nothing is going to impact the neighbors. That's not our intention. We're going to channel and sheet flow basically everything to the road and everything to the back of the property, much like it is. So we don't anticipate any changes. It should be noted, we are well under on impervious coverage. So we're not going over, we're not asking to go over. So I feel that the water that is accumulated on the property would be able to stay on the property or at least sheet flow to the road.
Perfect.
Mr. Chairman, I agree with that testimony. I agree with the drainage divide that was discussed, and I don't have any issues with it.
Do you want, according to your report, you wanted a grading plan?
I think a grading plan should be submitted. I believe that probably can be done at the building department level, submitted to the township engineer when building permits are submitted.
Okay, so, but we can make a condition of approval, the board approve your grading plan, but you're saying to be submitted with building permit application.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Matlack. Mr. Tilton, you'll submit that plan, correct?
Yes, we will submit it as part of the building permit application process. I'll probably engage Mr. Sermont to do it.
Okay. Any other questions from the board? Questions from the
Chair,
public? Whoop, I'm sorry, Ms. Beal.
I thought Mr. Higgins was going to say something earlier. Was he contributing any additional comments?
Yeah, I was. Thank you. I did not realize, for some reason I got muted again, and I did not realize I was muted. I'm not sure where we left the situation with the garbage.
Pull that screen back up.
And what's that?
Let's pull the screen back up. They're going to relocate it. Let's show you where it's being relocated.
Okay. My reasoning for asking them to relocate it was because the board had problems on a prior application with a garbage area being located in the front yard. I have no problem where they want to locate it because of the unique situation here. If they want to keep it, and if the board is comfortable with them keeping it in that same location, I have no problem with that at all.
It's going there, or is it going into the little crevice by the garage?
Well, I have no problem with them going where they originally proposed it, as long as the board doesn't have a concern. If the board has a concern, then it could be put in that little corner by the garage.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm a little confused myself. My understanding was that they were going to put it in that little crevice, okay, at the garage, so they could roll it from there onto the driveway and out.
That's what I thought too. That's what I thought also.
Where they initially proposed it, right near the street, they can also roll it right out of there into the street.
Yeah.
It's
So-
either way, it's convenient.
And that was the applicant's preference, and I believe that the neighbor to the east is in one of these boxes online. I know that they reviewed it with him. Again, it's adjacent, that trash enclosure that we really propose and really want, it's contiguous with the neighbor's garage. It's
Yeah, no,
probably-
Rich, I'm not saying
Yeah.
yay or nay on my end. I just
Okay.
want us to be all clear
Right.
when everyone votes. That's all I'm looking for.
Yes, I appreciate that, because we really would like it there.
All right, so where do you want it? You don't want it where the X is, you want it where it originally was by the driveway.
Yes, that would be great if it was there.
Board members, do you all understand that they're not putting it where the X is, they're putting it where it originally was next to the driveway, correct? Okay, can we not, you don't have to color, just.
Okay, sorry.
You don't have to share the screen anymore. Let's go back to the board members.
So that we need a variance for that. Because
Right, you need a variance for that, Mr. Tilton.
Yes, and that's correct.
And what would be the proximity to the front property line?
It is, that's a good question.
I want to say it was 3 feet, Mark.
Yeah, if you bear with me, I'll tell you, it's, yeah, it looks about 3.5 feet.
Alexa, please turn on office light.
Okay.
Variance is a 3.5 front yard setback.
Correct.
For the
That's
garbage
correct.
enclosure. Okay. Okay. But you are going to reduce the driveway to 20 feet. That variance is withdrawn.
Yeah, to the
Yes,
existing curb
correct.
cut, which is 20 feet, yeah.
That's
Correct.
fine. That's fine. So that variance goes away.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, board members, do you have any questions? Anyone from the public here to be heard? Questions?
Yes, I'm Ray Hodnett. I'm the neighbor to the east, mysterious
Yes.
neighbor to the east. Totally in favor of this proposed application. I'm in favor of the location of the trash can enclosure, as noted, the original location. It's actually going to be a real great addition to the neighborhood, providing additional interest, massing in proportion to the rest of the neighborhood. Really look forward to what they're going to do here.
Thank you, Mr. Hodnett. Any other questions or comments from the public? Amy, please call the roll. I'm sorry. Have to move to close the public hearing.
I make a motion to close the public hearing, Worrell.
I need a second.
Beal, second.
Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Mamie,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Shephaka.
Yes. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Wait,
We need to.
Oh, no, wait a minute. I just closed the public hearing. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Getting a little punch drunk here.
That's okay. Not so fast. Not so fast. Okay.
Okay, I'll offer a positive resolution on this, keeping the driveway to a 20-foot and keeping the trash enclosure where originally stated. I need a second, please.
Second. Worrell.
Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Mamie,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Shephaka.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, thank you, and board members, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you
Have a
very
good
much.
night.
So our last case is case number 6. But
Well,
um,
we have
All
a
right.
7 and we
Mr.
have to go
Shephaka.
back.
Although I enjoy your enthusiasm,
We got a couple more.
we have both case number 6. There's a case number 7 thereafter, but we need to move after case 6. Mr. Bove has joined
Oh, there's
us.
case number 7. Okay.
Okay, so we need to get number 6, then Mr. Bove, then Mr. Donner will be there for case number 7.
Okay.
All right.
So we're gonna do case number 6 first. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
I missed, you know what? I just put that, I threw the papers aside and I didn't see number 7. Okay, we're good. Okay, next case is number 6. Felix Garcia and Rita Del Castillo, block 35.06, lot 19, Hartshorn Road, Ocean, Zone R2. This is an application to erect a 5-foot open fence with a portion located within the required front yard setback. This is a corner property. Amy, please mark the packet.
Okay.
Jim, please read your report.
I will summarize, even though it's a very short report. Basically, the applicant wants to put a 5-foot estate-style fence, which you can see through, in his front yard. It'll be behind some very mature existing white pine trees, which quite frankly will just about completely obscure the view of the fence. And the purpose is to keep deer out of the backyard. And I don't have any problem with the application. I think it makes a lot of sense.
So do I. I live a block away and the deer are running rampant all over the neighborhood.
That's why you're moving, right, Henry?
Yeah, really. Mr. Matlack, anything
Thank you.
engineering wise?
No engineering comments regarding this fence.
Okay. Mr. Garcia or Ms. Castillo, who's going to testify? Are you here?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, Mr. Garcia.
Yes, and my wife just joined me.
Okay, who's going to testify?
I will testify.
Okay, please raise your right hand. Swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Felix Garcia from 9 Hartshorn Road, in the wayside section 07712.
Okay, please tell us what you're going to do.
Well, as you hear, we try to contain these deer. So what we're planning to do is to put a 5-foot open aluminum fence,
right,
which is going to continue in line with the fence of the neighbor who has a pool. So we're going to keep the symmetry along with them, just on the backyard, so the kids can play there, and hopefully we will, allow for the rest of the shrubs to survive, whatever little is left.
I understand that. Okay, so it's actually for safety for your children to play, and you don't have to worry about the deer coming in, and
More for the kids. And
No, you can't. I'm sorry, ma'am. Unless I swear you in, you can't testify.
Yes, it's mostly for safety concerns. Yes.
Okay. Well, that seems pretty reasonable. Any questions from the board? Anyone from here from the public to be heard? Someone please move to close the public hearing.
Make a motion to close the public hearing, Worrell.
Need a second? Okay, I'll
Beal
second.
second.
Okay, Ms. Beal, second. Amy, please call the roll.
Okay, Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Mamie,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Shepherd.
Yes. Action.
I offer for a positive resolution to go with the aluminum fence.
I need a second.
Second.
Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Mamie,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Shepherd.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Garcia.
Just one simple question, how long before I have the permit?
Excuse me?
How long before I have the permit?
You could call Amy tomorrow and she'll tell you about that, okay? I have no idea.
Okay, thank you very much. You have a great night.
You're welcome. Folks, I need 2 minutes. I have to do something that's very important for my job. And then we'll come back and Mr. Steinberg, we're gonna go to something before 7, correct?
Yeah, Mr. Bove is here. That's just the generator. And I
All
believe he's supposed-
Mr. Bove.
Mr. Bove, which is
Yes,
number
sir.
11. And then we'll
Mr.
go to,
Mr. Shepherd, do you mind if we take a 5-minute break for everyone to stretch their legs
Sure.
before we get into the rest?
Got it.
Thank
okay,
you.
take 5.
Amy, please call the roll again. Let's make sure we're all here.
Okay. Mr. Fuller.
Here.
Mr. Worrell,
Here.
Mrs. Beal,
Here.
Mr. Mamie,
Here.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Here.
Chairman Shepherd.
Here. Okay, that brings us to case number 11, Ralph
Oh.
Bove, block 25, lot 143, 423 Brookside Avenue, Oakhurst, zone R4. This is an application to install a generator with an elevated wood platform within a floodplain and within the side yard setback. Mr. Bove, are you here?
Yes, I am.
Please raise your right hand. You swear to tell the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name and address.
Ralph BoA, 432 Brookside Avenue, Oakhurst, New Jersey, 07755.
432?
432.
I'm sorry, there's 423 on here. 432 is the correction, and I'm sorry I mispronounced your name.
It's okay. Many people do.
Amy, please mark the packet.
Okay.
Mr. Mr. Higgins.
I've been called worse. Again, I'm going to summarize. Basically, the applicant wants to put a generator, an emergency generator next to his house in an area that floods very frequently and frequently loses power. I think really if there's any area in the township that needs generators, this is one of them. This is an area where the township actually had a buyout program for homeowners a number of years ago, where some homeowners basically sold their homes and the homes were destroyed and the township owned the properties. It's just frequent flooding. I looked at it. I can't see another possible location to put the generator. If you move it towards the rear of the property, it puts it deeper into the floodplain, which doesn't make sense. The only question I had is how high is the proposed deck? And that should be clarified to the satisfaction of the board engineer.
I'll hold up a sketch.
Wait.
Hold it.
Hold it up. Mr. Matlock, your report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I'd first like to apologize because I think my report is not very clear, and I had a conversation with Mr. Bove about this today about this. Our report says that the proposed generator and platform must be raised above the floodplain to 27 feet. The elevation 27, not 27 feet above the existing grade or above the flood elevation, but the elevation of the floodplain, according to the FEMA flood maps, is 27 feet above sea level. I spoke to Mr. Bove and told him just by, you can get a sort of a gauge of what your elevation is using Google Earth. And I told him it looked like his ground elevation was around 24 feet, so that would require about a 3-foot elevation. I had asked him if he had an elevation certificate for his house that he could talk about or provide. So I think we can talk about that. I think if he meets the first floor elevation of his house with the proposed generator platform, then that should suffice. But I'd like to hear from Mr. BoA.
And Mr. Beauvais, you will not have to put your generator in the trees now.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Beauvais,
Yes,
tell us
sir.
what you're doing.
I'm going
Swear
to
in.
install.
Did we swear him in?
What? I swore him in.
You did, okay.
You
All right.
sworn me? Yes. I'm going to install a generator on the east side of my house at the level with the first floor, which is 52 inches above grade right now. And I can hold up a sketch for you guys to look at.
It's not, I don't think, is that part of your, is that part of your packet?
Well, it was submitted for the permit,
Yes.
was rejected. Oh, Amy says yes.
Yeah, we have it.
Okay, so it's, when I elevated the house 3 years ago, I made sure that I was substantially above the floodplain height. And my certificate at the time verified that. So I just made I'm gonna make the platform level to the first floor. 52 inches above grade, give or take. The generator will sit on top of the platform and actually be, 24 inches high.
Okay. Mr. Matlack, did that answer your question?
Yes, it did. I would ask that if Mr. Beauvais has a copy of his elevation certificate, that be submitted.
I can't submit that. I just couldn't put my hand on it fast enough.
Not a problem.
Today.
That's okay.
Not a problem. And I would also add that the flood zone that he is in is an A zone. It's not a V zone or velocity zone, which would require could require pilings, basically the lowest structural member to be above that flood.
Not sworn in. The platform will be mounted to a concrete deck on the ground so that it can't float up. Get away from me. Get away from me. Okay. Anything else, gentlemen?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Are there questions from the board?
Chairman, my only question is, and I'm certainly not against the idea of having your generator up high, but is this something that other people have done? Do we have any knowledge of it? Just what happens with the noise of the generator when it's now on top of wood? Does that make it?
Okay, I can answer that. The house next door to me is abandoned. The house to my east, and it has been taken over by DEP, which is the Blue Acres program. So I can assume that it's going to be taken down and the land restored to natural state. And the generator being a later version of generators is actually, they're touting them as quieter. I have a neighbor, it was Doc Richmond's house, and his one is on grade, and when we have a failure, his generator runs and no one is really bothered by it. So I don't think noise will be an issue to anyone, because the next nearest house is 3 lots away. It's going to be 3 lots away.
Mr. Fuller, I think that's pretty much standard operating procedure. I see a lot of generators that are above grade. Maybe Mr. Higgins or Mr. Matlack has a better answer, but I think if they couldn't be mounted there because of noise or something, they wouldn't. Jim? Mr.
Yeah,
Matlack?
I don't know really about the noise or how many are above grade, but in this area, that's where it has to be. And there is a dire need for generators in this area because it floods frequently and people lose power frequently. It's
Yes,
not
they
like
do.
somebody like where I live out in Wayside, where occasionally we lose power because of some sort of area-wide power loss. They lose power frequently because of flooding. And it's really
Accurate, very
necessary.
accurate.
So the noise, I think the noise is incidental to the real need that's there.
It's a
Yeah.
short duration.
Yeah, and I would add that it's a requirement of FEMA that utilities, including generators, be mounted above the base flood elevation, which is the 100-year flood.
Mr. Fuller, are you good with that?
Yeah, like I said, I'm certainly not arguing about the fact that it needs to be raised. My question was really about the material and you know, if obviously they're probably raised they're raised all the time. Just wondering if our experts had any information on what materials used to raise it, if there's a best practices. That's all.
No.
Any other questions from the board? Questions from the public? Need a motion to close the public hearing?
Second. Worrell.
Need a second?
Second.
Who seconded that?
Fuller.
Thank you, Mr. Fuller. Amy, please call the roll.
Okay, Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal, Mrs. Beal,
Ms.
Mr.
Beal?
Mamie,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Shepherd.
Yes. Action?
I offer for a positive resolution for the installation of the generator as per plans.
I'll second.
Worrell.
You're subject to submission of a elevation certificate though, right? That was a condition?
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
I got it.
Amy, please call the roll.
Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal, Mr. Mamie,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Shepherd.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Bove.
Thank you, sir.
Before we move on and I turn the chair over to Mr. Worrell, if I could have all the board members just stick with me. I don't care if the public's here or not. I've been here since 1991 and I want to thank our professionals. They've been consummate over the years. Mr. Higgins, Mr. Fitzgerald, Mr. Steinberg. I call these people all the time and they've always been great. I'm gonna miss doing this. I learned everything from Warren Good. He taught me well. I'd like to thank the people that came before and they're not here. Mary Ann, Margot, and Rachel. Amy, you're doing a great job. Ron, you're doing a great job. And I know Mr. Worrell and Ms. Beal and the board will carry on and Ocean Township I'm leaving it in fine hands. Thank you. I'm done.
Henry?
Thank you, Henry.
Henry?
Thank you, Henry, for all of your service. It's been a pleasure working with you all these years.
Thank you.
Henry?
Thank you, Henry.
Thank you.
Before you leave,
Yes.
before you leave, and before we start with Seaview, which will take a little while, on Koski, that's #1 tonight on the carried list.
Yes.
That has been on the agenda for months and some changes in service and whatnot. And I did prepare a resolution on that matter and I did circulate it among the board.
Correct.
I don't know if you would like to offer that and get rid of that piece of business tonight.
I will offer that as my last offering.
That's what I figured. Amy, you have it?
The resolution?
Yeah, I sent it to
Yeah.
you. Okay. So he's offering the resolution for memorialization tonight. Henry, we need a second.
We need a second.
I'll second Worrell.
Amy, please call the roll.
Okay. Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
Ms. Beal, Mr. Mamie,
Yes.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
Chairman Chefika.
Yes.
Okay.
Henry, best of luck.
Thank you,
very
Henry.
much. I forgot one person, and I must tell you, I'm sure you guys don't remember him, but Mr. Steinberg and Mr. Higgins does. Harry Laufer was a great guy and taught me a lot also. And I miss him a lot.
And Henry, it's been a great run. We're gonna miss you.
Thank you. Thank
Okay,
you.
we look forward to failing your certificate of occupancy this week.
Thanks a lot. I'll talk to you guys.
Take care.
Bye.
Nice. Now, how many members of the board do we have? Well, what do we got left?
I think we lost Miss Beal.
I'll try to email her now.
Yeah, because I don't see her at all on the list of participants.
We got at least 5, right? We have 5
1, 2.
without Henry.
We had 6, so yeah, we need Mrs. Beal back.
Okay,
Wanda just called me. She has a problem. She's coming back on.
okay.
Okay. She'll be back in a minute. Thanks, guys.
So
Yeah.
with Miss Beal, how many will we have? 5?
4 without Henry and Shawanda, that would be 4.
No, when Shawanda comes back.
Then
No,
we'll have
Shawanda
5.
comes back, we got 5.
So we need to wait for that because is this the use variance? We got a D here because it's a height.
No, it's the use and the height.
Okay, I thought the use was permitted.
No, the use isn't permitted.
Okay, anyhow, so Jeff, we have to wait for her to come back.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're not going to finish up tonight. It's a long application. And other board members will listen to the transcript and verify that to be eligible to vote for the next meeting.
Mark, I'd like to take everybody's concern and put it off to the side. What we're going to present tonight is our arguments about why we have the easement and this board has jurisdiction. Earlier today, I was contacted by Mr. Matlock, the new engineer, and we discussed the project a bit, and he confided to me that he hasn't had the time to go through it and look at it up to his standards. And I told him that I would not go through the details of this project unless he was prepared. And so we would handle the jurisdictional issue with the easement, and then I'll cede my time and carry to August, because I don't think it's fair to the board. I don't think it's fair to Mr. Matlock.
But we still need 5 members to hear your case.
I understand that, and I'm more than happy to wait for that.
Well, actually, we don't. We can actually hear it with 4. 4 is a
You
quorum.
can on the jurisdictional issue?
Well, but let's hold up. Let's give Shawanda 5 minutes to 10 minutes, and that way we have the 5 people, and
We have
we're
the
not.
5 people, we can proceed. And then, as I said, other board members will review the well, we don't do the transcripts anymore, we'll listen to the tape and make themselves eligible for the next meeting. So that you're entitled to 7 board members to vote at some point.
Yes.
So we will get others on board, but
Right.
I think we need to get you started tonight. So we're taking another 5, is that what you're telling me?
I say yes.
Ron, I'm here.
Here we go. Shawanda's back in, and we don't need 5.
Don't need anything. So we now have 5
Shawanda.
5 board members, and if Jim wants to call this case, we're ready to go.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my first time chairing the board, so I'm going to depend heavily on the professionals to guide me through this. I also want to thank you all for this opportunity. With that being said, let's start with the next case, which is Seaview Corporate Park, known as the Arbor at Ocean, lot 1.01, block 149.01, and I believe Mr. Donner is representing.
That is
Yeah,
true,
okay.
Mr. Chairman. Yes, sir. I'm here.
Do we have a packet? We have a packet on this.
Yes, I
We
believe
do.
we should.
Amy, can you please mark the packet B1 for tonight?
Yes.
Thank you. So, Mr. Donner, you're up.
Well,
Okay, well, do you want me to set up the issue? Does Ron want to set it up? Do you want to set it up?
Yeah, do we want our professionals to go first?
We'd like to have the professionals go first for Jim Higgins and Ben, and then we'll address the 800-pound gorilla as to jurisdiction for access. Correct, Jeff? I mean, I'm being fair and honest here.
The issue is whether we have rights to the access easement and whether it's jurisdictional.
And so that is a large large portion, not the large portion, but a large significant portion of this case. So Mr. Higgins should give his testimony, I believe, and then Mr. Matlack a minimal amount of, because he hasn't had really a time to get up to gear here. Jeff, you'll provide your case and we'll move forward from there.
Thank you.
My thinking is if we have a jurisdictional issue, there's no point in my reading my report into the record until we establish jurisdiction. So I think it's probably better, particularly since there are some areas in my report that I really need additional information. So it might give the applicant a chance to answer those questions in my report rather than read the report into the record and then go through the jurisdictional issues. I think maybe, and Mark can comment on that, but I think maybe it's better to go through jurisdiction first and then deal with the planning and the engineering issues.
Mr. Steinberg, what do you think?
I'm just going through a report. Most of it is not jurisdictional, soil removal, parking. Yeah, we need to do all that. You may want to just, yeah, I think you're right. Jeff, why don't you present the case how you feel appropriate at this point?
Okay, thank you, Mark. Good evening, members of the board. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm Jeffrey Donner. I represent Seaview Corporate Park LTD, the applicant, and the property has already been noted as block 149.01 and lot 1.01. I believe that Mr. Besh is here tonight. I'm asking him to assist me in doing some share screen and putting some documents up that I'll refer to. Amy, could you allow Mr. Besh to share the screen, please?
Yes.
Thank you.
I just have to find him first.
Is he going to testify? We're going to swear him in?
No, he will not testify. He's just going to put documents on the screen for me, and I'm not testifying. This is legal argument.
All right, yeah, I'm not saying you testify. Didn't know Dave was. Okay.
I'm sorry. I'm just having a hard time locating him on my screen.
I'm looking for him right now myself. He was there earlier. I'm sure he's there.
Oh, I see you. Thank you.
Good. Okay.
Okay. You should be
Hey,
all
let
set.
me know when you can share the screen. I'd like you first to put up the subdivision map as filed in Monmouth County. All right, members of the board, let's go through exactly what is at issue here. What you see before you is a replica of the subdivision map, which is filed as map 283-29 in the Monmouth County Clerk's Office and has been filed there since December 17th, 2001. And if Mr. Besh will move his marker, I guess I can move mine too, over to this shaded area. This is the portion of the property. I might add that this is one of 4 sheets of the subdivision plat, and it's the part that features Route 66, the entrance into Cedar Village Boulevard. Okay, it's being moved around a little bit. The entrance into Cedar Village Boulevard and our property directly to the, I guess it's the west of Cedar Village Boulevard. So this is Cedar Village Boulevard. This is our easement area. And if you would note, and I don't know if we can blow it up sufficiently, there is 2 notations there. One, that it's an access easement that was conveyed to the owners of lot 1.01 and in block 149. It's 17,573 square feet. And if you look closely at each of the sides of the easement that make up the easement, there's meets and bounds designations there and number of feet. So this is set forth with a surveyor's precision. Now, to the left of the shaded area is really what most people would think is the extension of Cedar Village Boulevard, but it's really the right-of-way that's owned by the Department of Transportation, and it proceeds all the way out to Route 66, which is beyond it to the left, okay? The issue is whether or not this designation of a access easement on this subdivision plat is sufficient to provide an access easement for our use in proceeding from Route 66 into the shaded area to make a left-hand turn into our property, or when coming out of our property with the designed driveway, making a left-hand, or excuse me, a right-hand turn to go to Route 66. Now, the issue that we're addressing is what was the intent of the parties at the time that this easement was conveyed, because we don't have what we often see, and that is what is called a deed of easement, where you have a separate written document that's recorded of record, and it's from the grantor to the grantee, and it talks about exactly what the easement is and what its purposes are. But we are not just relying on this particular map, although the map is very significant because it is the map, the portion of the map that not only creates the easement for our property, but in conjunction with the other sheets of this map, it is the map that created the very lots on which Cedar Village presently occupies, and including Cedar Village Boulevard, which is a separate lot and a private right-of-way of that community. So this map had to meet stringent requirements. It's signed by all sorts of official people, and it was entered to meet those rigid requirements of the map law into the record, where it is available to be searched anytime anyone wants to see it. But we're not looking or relying strictly on this subdivision map. David, if you would move to the public offering, please, public offering statement.
Have that too.
Okay, this, if we go to the first page, just so I want everyone to see what this is. This is an excerpt from the public offering statement that was filed by the developer of Cedar Village, the community, and the developer is Cedar Village at Ocean LLC. Now, if you proceed to the bottom of this page, David, please, you'll note that this was registered with Department of Community Affairs as R-3746, and the effective date of the statement is May 18, 2004. If you would proceed to the last page of the exhibit, David. We just passed the glossary. Just go back to page 2 for a second, I'm sorry. We just passed the, keep on going. We just passed the glossary because I want everyone to see what we're looking at. And this is the table of contents of this public offering statement. And at 16, which I put an arrow next to it, you see that that portion of the public offering statement is entitled Encumbrances, Easements, and Restrictions. Now, if we move it to the next to last page first, please. All right, this is the beginning. Go back down. Go to the beginning of 14. Go to the beginning of 14 first. All right, stop right there. This is the beginning of that section, Encumbrances, Easements, and Restrictions. The third paragraph goes through a number of easements and restrictions that were recorded by separate documents of record, okay? And keep on going, David, through this paragraph. keep on going on to 15. Now, the second or the first full paragraph on 15 says as follows: this tract, meaning Cedar Village, is also subject to an access easement through a portion of the entrance road, which is Cedar Village Boulevard, that will be the common property of the association. That is a common element of the association, Cedar Village Boulevard, as all the roads in Cedar Village, the community, are. Common property of the association to a tract adjacent to Cedar Village at Ocean. This adjacent tract is presently vacant, but may be developed at a future time for commercial or residential use. In addition, the association will provide snow removal on a 160-foot portion of the entrance to the tract from Route 66 to its junction with the common property, which is the Department of Transportation right-of-way. That's the part I showed you earlier where my easement begins, and to the left of it, or I guess the west of it, is the rest of what you would think would be Cedar Village Boulevard leading into Route 66. Even though that belongs to the Department of Transportation as their right-of-way, you will see in this public offering statement that Cedar Village is required to provide snow removal to that area. Furthermore, the sewer lines on this tract may be used by residents of the proposed senior development on an adjoining tract and other adjacent properties. Now, so what we have, as far as I'm concerned, is what is called an express grant of an easement. You often would have an express grant to this other document, but there is nothing that stops a grantor from making an express grant to a grantee, namely the owners of our property, in this manner. And in fact, I have a case that stands for exactly that principle. I've seen arguments against whether we have this easement or not. A lot of it is distracting because they proceed as though you're in a law school class and you have to know the 4 types of easements. I don't want to confuse you, and I don't want to divert your attention. This is what is known as an express easement, and the case of Friedman versus MTR Ventures, LLC, which is a published case in the state of New Jersey, stands for the proposition that where you have a subdivision plat or map that has an easement noted on that map, that easement does in fact exist. Now, where you have a written document, the document speaks for itself. Where you have any ambiguity as to what that designation on the subdivision map means, the court then has the opportunity and the right to look at the surrounding circumstances, including the physical conditions and character of the servient tenement. In other words, in this case, Cedar Village Boulevard, which has the access easement on it, is deemed to be the servient tenement, and our property, which has the benefit of the access easement, is deemed to be the dominant property. So they're looking at the surrounding circumstances, including the physical conditions and character of the servient tenement, as well as the requirements of the grantee. And that's what plays a significant role in the determination of the controlling intent. And that statement is also cited with 2 cases, one from the Appellate Division from 2005, and one that goes back to the Appellate Division in 1957. So this is not new law. This is solid black letter law in the state of New Jersey. Now, if we look at these factors, what we have is Cedar Village Boulevard, which is the principal right-of-way that runs through the community of Cedar Village and continues up the hill to the west into Nobility Crest, and also meets certain roads that branch out from Cedar Village, such as Dogwood at the very top of the hill, or Sequoia Drive, almost at the top of the hill. And that becomes the main road access through Cedar Village. The purpose of Cedar Village is to provide access to the properties that it's adjacent to. The needs of my client as grantee was to obtain access from Cedar Village Boulevard. Now, what else could that intent be? Well, it could be argued that that intent could be limited to only a utility easement, okay, as opposed to an access easement. And in fact, someone may argue that that's exactly what happened in the Friedman case. When the court looked at all the various factors, there they found that the easement was only a utility easement. But what militates against that is that in November of 2016, Cedar Village gave our property a utility easement at the top of the hill, moving from our property across Cedar Village Boulevard and into tie-ins on Sequoia Drive. So if in fact that the easement I'm talking about for access was simply a utility easement, there would have been no need to grant another utility easement at the top of the hill there. No need to go through a whole different document on November of 2016. Now, I saw an earlier report, I believe it was by Mr. Fitzgerald, who talks about the fact that this other deed of easement for utilities was done at or about the same time as the access easement. And with all due respect to Mr. Fitzgerald, he was not correct on that. They're separated by about 16 years, okay? 16 years in a company such as Seaview Corporate Park Limited means there's a whole different set of executives, a whole different set of people responsible for the project and the property, and different people do things different ways. But we're not just hanging our hat on the map and on what is said in the public offering statement, which, by the way, to appreciate the significance of what this is the document that the developers of Cedar Village had to disseminate to people that were interested in buying a home in Cedar Village. This is part of the mandatory disclosure that has to be made under our laws. And so everything that's in this public offering statement has got to be accurate. It's got to be true, or the developer is subject to claims of misleading people in order to buy a home in Cedar Village. So there's a great amount of care and a great amount of attention that's put into doing a document such as this. But we're not just hanging our hat on the subdivision map, which is recorded and created Cedar Village. We're not just hanging our hat on the public offering statement, which says very specifically that this adjacent property has an access easement, which by the way, it says in here, and it's vacant now. The adjacent tract is presently vacant, but may be developed at a future time for commercial or residential use. So clearly, the statement that was being made to the potential buyers of homes in Cedar Village was that this vacant piece of property was likely going to be used for a potential wide range of uses that would require access and would require some interchange between Cedar Village Boulevard and the property once it was developed, which is exactly what is being sought for here. But the third thing that we're hanging our hat on, and David, if you could go to the portion of the subdivision map that we got from the developer, we went back to the office of Mark Fish. Mark Fish was one of the principals in Continental Properties, and he and his brother Stephen were also principals in the developer of Cedar Village, which is Cedar Village at Ocean LLC. And we asked him to give us whatever information he had on this access easement. Now, David, I think if you go down 2 or 3 panels here, obviously it's a big sheet. It could not be, stop right there for a second. Okay, go down one first. Go down one first. No, I'm sorry. Stay there. We're going to go up in a second. What he did, okay, in response to our request to identify what we're talking about with the easement, he marked up the easement itself as it appears on various panels of this subdivision plat. This is like the 4th panel of this plat, and you see the asterisk, and you see that he is putting a square around the fact that this is an access easement. Go down now, David, to a prior page. I want to go to a prior page. I guess go up. I'm sorry. Keep on going. All right, stop right there. Stop right there. Go up a little bit so we can see the easement. No.
Liar.
Go for the shaded area, that's it. This is a blown up portion of the area I showed you initially on the full filed subdivision plat. And this is in fact the easement that he put a star on and put a square around access easement conveyed to owners of lot 1.01, block 149. So we now have 3 separate items of confirmation. We have the plat itself, which ideally should be enough, especially when one looks at the analysis of the circumstances. And the only thing that this easement could possibly be is an access easement to get in and out of our property using Cedar Village Boulevard. And it cannot be a utility easement because we already have a utility easement that was given some years later, and they wouldn't have given that to us if this was already a utility easement. This is what it says it is, an access easement. We have the public offering statement that was given to every purchaser who was interested in buying a home in Cedar Village to disclose the fact that this easement existed to serve the adjacent tract of lot 101 in block 14901. And we now have also the marked up version of this plat from the developer himself that emphasizes that this is the access easement that is referred to in the public offering statement. This is the access easement that is depicted on the filed subdivision map, and it is exactly what it portends to be, which is an access easement to our property. Now, I don't want to belabor it. There's different things that can be said, different things that can be argued, and different things that can distract you from the point. But once we have sufficient documentation that the intent of the parties was to provide access to this lot and block from Cedar Village Boulevard, under the law, this access easement is just as operative, just as effective, and just as much existing as if it was also represented by a separate document that was filed separately of record. That is not necessary. And in fact, the argument that opposes what I'm saying admits the very fact that it is not necessary to have a separate easement grant in order to have an effective easement. Okay, the only thing that you are looking for with the deed of easement grant itself is additional confirmation as to the intent of the parties. But as the court did in Friedman, if you look at the circumstances, if you look at what the purposes of Cedar Village Boulevard are, which is access and entry into Cedar Village and affording the same to this adjacent tract, and you look at the fact that the needs of the applicant were at that time, and they are today, to have access from Cedar Village Boulevard into our property, that becomes very clear. Now, the other thing that I want to emphasize is that we are not using any of the property of Cedar Village. There was an earlier subdivision plat in which we, subdivision plan, I should say, in which we proposed certain things to do in Cedar Village Boulevard itself. Those were being done at the request of Cedar Village when we were in discussions with them. But those discussions did not come to fruition, and we then submitted a site plan, which is the one before the board right now, that shows no activity by us whatsoever in Cedar Village Boulevard or anywhere else on the property of Cedar Village. We are self-contained. All of the development that we're going to be doing is in block 149.01, lot 1.01. And what is needed in order to give this board jurisdiction? What is needed is an owner or somebody with a significant enough right in the property with the permission of the owner to make an application to use the property that is the subject of the application. Now, we're just dealing with ourselves. The applicant is the owner of this property. The applicant has been the owner of this property year after year after year, and has not had the benefit of the property for quite a while because it hasn't been able to find a use that would be applicable to the property. This use was suggested to the owner of the property by me because of a very simple reason. Because when my 92-year-old mother needed assisted living, there was no place to get that in Ocean Township. So my mother, who was a 60-year resident of Ocean Township, had to leave the township in order to get her needs taken care of. And that's where this all started. That's where it started when we had the first discussions that were conceptual in nature. And I'll keep on saying it. Ocean Township, the motto of the township, and I went to grammar school in this township. And the motto of the township is a community of gracious living. Well, I will argue that a community of gracious living provides services like the ones we are proposing to its residents, which is assisted living, long-term care, rehabilitation from serious injury, and memory care. And I will present to you that there is no place in this township today that furnishes all of those services that we're proposing to furnish. And the ones that may be close by either have a price tag far in excess of what the average person can afford, or in one case, there's a memory care facility on Bound Road that I think has 16 slots. And in this day and age, that is not enough to cover the needs of a township such as ours. We are talking about a facility that will start with assisted living and be able to move with the needs of the individual as they may arise. And in order to do this, all we're looking to do is claim the easement that is of record in Monmouth County with the clerk, confirmed by the public offering statement, and again confirmed by the developer itself, which was the grantor of this easement. And I propose and state that this board has jurisdiction because everything we're proposing to do is contained within the boundaries of our property. And the person that is proposing it is the owner, the fee title owner of that property. And so other people may talk about the Friedman case, and they talk about the fact that in the Friedman case, the court determined that it was not an access easement, it was a utility easement. The facts of the Friedman case are not our facts. The facts of the Friedman case were that in the course of time, somebody renamed the easement and access and utility easement. And when the court went back through the facts and looked at the respective needs and how this all came about in Friedman, it was determined that it was only a utility easement. In our case, those facts are not the facts that we're dealing with. The only thing this easement could be is an access easement into our property from a roadway that may be privately owned, but functions as the principal path for traffic to come from 66 into this area. The adjacent property that we own, Nobility Crest, as well as the several hundred homes that are in Cedar Village. I thank you for the opportunity for me to cover that.
Thank you, Mr. Donner.
I have a question, Jeff.
Mr. Steinberger.
Was all of this property, including the lot that you're developing, owned by one party, one entity?
Yes, at one time.
Okay, and that entity is the one which proceeded with the subdivision?
Yes.
So they retained 1.01.
Right. The
They didn't sell it all.
Seaview Corporate Park Ltd. owned all the property.
Right.
They sold the portion that is now occupied by Cedar Village to the developer Cedar Village.
And they kept
part of that had to be a subdivision. And in the course of this subdivision, this easement on this subdivision plat was reserved and created.
by the same people?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine.
And by the way, what was not by a fly-by-night engineering firm. This was done by John Truhan which was a very large and very professional firm in those days, dealing with large, complex projects. And they were serving not only Seaview Corporate Park Ltd., but they were also serving the developer of Cedar Village. So you just don't put a plat like this of record without everybody signing off. The board that granted the subdivision, various functionaries within the municipality, but it must first be approved by the principals that are looking to accomplish what this map is looking to memorialize and record. So this was done with the full consent of the developer of Cedar Village and Seaview Corporate Park Limited.
So you want us, I gather this is the next step, is you feel that the board should accept jurisdiction without the necessity of the village signing off on your application.
Yes, there's no need for Cedar Village to sign off on the application because we're not doing anything on Cedar Village's property. We have a proprietary interest in this access easement. That's the whole point of everything I've been going over. And yes, the board does have jurisdiction, and I am asking the members of the board to make that finding.
Okay. Now, for the board's edification, when you originally came in, we looked at your service. You had planned to make a few changes in the easement area to your benefit. And I said to you at that time that it would be, since the property owned by the village would be affected, they would have to concur in the application.
That is true.
You said, we're working on it. And then we decided that you needed to notice everybody within 200 feet of, I believe it's lot 7, which is the roadway complex.
It's lot 77. I remember it well. That is every roadway in Cedar Village. So we had to send out notices to every person in Cedar Village, as well as everyone else within 200 feet in both Neptune and Ocean Township. There were 600 notices that went out.
And then for whatever reason, I understand that the village did not concur on the application.
Well, the things that you noted in Cedar Village Boulevard were things that they were asking us to accommodate. And we were talking about doing that, but we couldn't come to an agreement to get that done. So we went forward without it because we don't feel we need it for our property. But, you know, we've always endeavored to try to be a good neighbor here. And one thing the board should know, even though we're not doing anything with Cedar Village per se, we did make a presentation of this project to them in their clubhouse, to their board, to their experts. And one of the things that they brought to our attention was the fact they were deathly concerned about our drainage going into their drainage on Sequoia and Dogwood, those systems, which were already, they felt, overtaxed. And we responded to that. And we took all of our drainage underground, probably added $1 million in expenses to our development costs, and are moving all of that water onto Route 66, into their system, totally away from Cedar Village. So we've endeavored to try to be the right neighbor, try to be a positive influence and have a positive project that is really going to be inherently beneficial to the township. And we believe it is inherently beneficial to the township.
So at some point, you amended your plans.
Right.
And you have absolutely no development on the property owned by Cedar Village.
That is correct.
You're only asking, or you are affirming, that you have the right to cross their property to enter yours.
Correct.
Which is what the access easement would be for.
That is correct.
If the access easement is valid, then this board would, in my legal opinion, would have jurisdiction to hear this case without any type of consent or concurrence of the application by Cedar Village. Now, the question becomes is whether or not the board isn't, but I am in the position to make legal determinations, okay? I don't know if there's going to be a counter argument tonight by someone, in which I would like to hear it. But from what you've presented, between the easement as shown on the plans as approved by this township, okay, and filed in the county clerk's office, there is sufficient information, in my opinion, to show that there is an access easement in existence. I think it's buttressed by the fact that it's in the offering statement and telling people that there's an access easement to the property next door so they can get in for future development. So taking that all into consideration, I would advise the board that I feel that there is jurisdiction, but I would like to hear if there's any type of counter argument that's going to be presented before I give the board my final position. Board members, do you have any questions? Any of the board members have any
Yeah,
questions?
Mr. Steinberg, is Cedar Village being represented by an attorney tonight?
Yes, and good evening, everyone. It's Hubert Catolo from Catolo and Barrows. We
Can we
are
get the, Dave, can you take off the screen so that we can see some people? Okay, thanks.
Much better. Good evening, everyone. Hubert Catolo from Catolo and Barrows, representing Cedar Village at Ocean Homeowners Association, Inc.
Thank you. So you're formally representing Cedar Village. You'll be speaking on their behalf.
Yes, we will. We also submitted a legal brief of these issues. I don't know if everyone received that on July 1st. That was sent to Mr. Kirk of the Township Zoning Board.
And what that does is that went to our legal counsel. It does not go to the members until you've made your case. Okay.
Okay, great. All right, thank you. Well, we contend that the purported easement across the association's property within the application filed by the applicant is not valid or legally enforceable. The applicant is proposing as a point of ingress and egress to and from its facility across a portion of the adjacent property located on block 1501, lot 77, which actually belongs to the association. We contend that the board does not have the power to review or approve the subject application because the applicant is not the owner, nor does it have a priority interest in block 150.01, lot 77, which belongs to the association. The burden of proving the right to relief sought in the application rests at all times on the applicant. That's actually 10 Starry Dom versus Morrow, 216 New Jersey, 1630 in 2013. So therefore, obviously, we contend that the board does not have jurisdiction to hear this. The only operative document is the final subdivision plat that was filed in the county clerk's office, which purportedly graphically depicted an access easement conveyed to the owners of lot 101, 1.01, block 149. Notably, there's no recorded deed or instrument from which the parties' respective rights and obligations can be delineated. Now, specifically in this instance, on the easement area, the applicant is proposing to relocate existing masonry columns, remove parts of existing fences, install signs, and certainly nowhere in that purported easement on the filed plat does it give the applicant the right to do any of that. Now, the applicant's counsel eloquently noted about Friedman. Friedman actually held that an express easement containing an ambiguous reference to an access and utility easement was a utility easement rather than a permanent easement, an access easement. That was facts that are fairly analogous to ours. It was a plat that they were looking at, and they couldn't construe the rights to determine whether that easement actually existed. You know, there was some arguments tonight that as to what the sponsor testified as to. Obviously, here there's a requirement under the New Jersey law with the New Jersey statute of frauds. Now, the statute of frauds require you know, that there be a description of the real estate sufficient to identify a nature of the interest. Here, we don't have the nature of the interest as to what this access agreement it comports with, whether the applicant has rights to remove our retaining walls, our roads, etc. So certainly, we feel that any evidence that's not a filed deed of easement can't even be considered under the statute of frauds, because it has to be in writing. Public offering statement is not a filed document. We'll touch briefly on that. He did put the public offering statement. Public offering statement, and there's specific law out there dealing with the public offering statement. Sokoff versus 2100 Linwood Owners Association, Inc. And the site on that is 303 New Jersey Super Appellate Division 1997, specifically said that public offering statements don't apply. It's a contract between the initial purchaser and the association. And other than that, they are not filed with the county clerk. They are filed with the DCA. So this would no subsequent purchasers, which now we're having a lot of people buy within the association, would be aware of this purported easement. You know, quoting Rosen versus Keller, questions concerning the extent of the rights conveyed by an easement require a determination of the intent of the parties as expressed through the instrument creating the easement. So you can't look beyond the actual instrument that we're looking at. You can't technically look at public offering statements. It's not a filed deed. This would have been very easy in this instance for the applicant if he had an actual valid, legally enforceable easement to file a deed of easement. Notably, he filed there was a deed filed between the applicant and the sponsor or the developer of the property, granting a utility easement, which set forth the specific rights. So we contend that clearly shows they knew that there was a requirement. The applicant knew or should have known that there was a requirement that a deed be filed, which that was not done. We also contend that the final subdivision plat for Cedar Village cannot grant an easement. In that regard, the Ocean Township Zoning Board cannot legally create or relocate an easement where one does not exist. The New Jersey Supreme Court actually dealt with this in Island Venture Associates versus New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. The site on that is 197 New Jersey 485. And it held that parties cannot be bound by restrictions on property if the restrictions cannot be discovered by a diligent search of the title. Here, they hid this purported deed of easement in a filed plat rather than filing a deed of easement. There is no deed of easement. Now, the New Jersey Supreme Court noted, especially under the Recording Act, that you have to record these documents so that you're putting everyone on notice. In fact, they quoting the court, the New Jersey Supreme Court, they said the integrity of the recording scheme is paramount. The Recording Act accomplishes its objectives by providing any instruments affecting the title to or interest in real estate. And it requires, in this state, shall be recorded on presentation to the recording officer of any county in which all or part of the real estate is located, provided the instrument satisfies certain requirements, such as inclusion of a signature. Here, and it cites to it NJSA 46:15-1.1. And there's certain prerequisites to recording documents. The instrument has to be acknowledged, approved, in the manner provided by the title. There's no notary. The names appear typed, printed, or stamped beneath the signatures of any parties to the instrument. And clearly, the filed plat does not meet any of these requirements with regard to granting a deed of easement. What it effectively does here is this deed of easement is basically hidden in a final subdivision plat of Cedar Village, and they easily could have had a filed deed of access easement, which wasn't done here. We'll quote a couple of other cases. The appellate division held that the Township Planning Board did not have the authority to compel relocation of an easement. That is Klein versus Bernardsville Association 267, New Jersey Super 473. Here, what the applicant is really requesting that the board do is grant him additional rights that are not described in that access of easement. All right, and let's see. Here, the applicant is certainly trying to change the character of an easement, but he's actually attempting to create an easement where there's no filed easement agreement settling or setting forth the rights of the grantor or grantee. I'll tell you, even the engineer for the Ocean Township, William Fitzgerald, PE, noted in his February 12th, 2021 report. And I'll quote from that report, a deed search of the county clerk's recorded deeds does not reveal any written document memorializing the easement or its terms. Finally, he said, consequently, it is not clear the grantees have the right to modify the existing improvements, install traffic control signage, and/or improvements, all of which may be necessary in connection with the proposed development. The current application is seeking to modify and remove parts of our property, including fixtures, masonry columns, fences, retaining walls. So it would be our argument that the zoning board doesn't have the jurisdiction or authority to grant such rights, or conversely, to usurp and divest such rights from the association by allowing the applicant to use and enjoy the property of my nonprofit association. I do believe people are very obviously concerned with this application and the traffic concerns that it will make as well. I think we have about 60 different residents on the phone or on the call tonight who are very concerned about it. Finally, the last argument that I'll make, assuming arguendo that somehow a valid access easement exists, even though we do not have any access easement agreement at all, you wouldn't be able to or with the association, we'd be expanding that easement because there is nowhere in writing anywhere that gives this applicant the right to go in on our property and remove retaining walls, privacy fences, etc. So we would respectfully request that the board rule that it does not have jurisdiction to decide this issue. We do not feel that there is a valid access easement agreement, and we respectfully request the board to decline jurisdiction.
Thank you, Counselor.
I just have a question to both counsel. Are you doing anything within the easement area? Are you modifying, the applicant modifying and removing fences and removing retaining walls?
Let me answer that, Jeff Donner. Yes, the Cedar Village put a decorative wall and a fence that blocks our access easement. And as you will recall, I have submitted legal authority that demonstrates that they're not allowed to do that under the law, and that we have the legal right to require them at their expense to remove those items because they're not, as a servient property, they cannot defeat the use of our easement. That's number one. Number two, Mr. Cotolo, he made arguments about statutes of fraud and how you can't look beyond the document, can't look beyond the subdivision plat. That he's arguing 100% against the Friedman case. He's absolutely ignoring what the Friedman case says, which says that if the easement is noted on the map, it exists. And if there's an ambiguity as to the intent of the easement, the court does look beyond the easement and looks at the circumstances, the needs of the grantee, and the overall circumstances of the servient property. And as I pointed out in my argument, here you have a road, you have a property noted that it's going to be developed at some point with commercial or residential use with a need for access. And under those circumstances, under that examination, it's very clear that it is an access easement. Now, the other things I mentioned,
Jeff, could you hold on one sec? Jeff, could you hold on 1 second? Look, Mark, I want to protect our board, okay? The board has been here since 6 o'clock this evening, okay?
Well,
And it seems as if the attorneys could talk until sometime.
No, we're wrapping it up, Ron. We really are. I mean, I'm down to my last 2 cents.
Hours. What I'm saying to you both is, how do we get to a conclusion here?
Well, here's
before the dawn?
Okay, well, first of all, I am going to, now that I heard their arguments, I'm going to re-review their submissions, and read the cases, and I will render a decision. I do not believe, even if I find, and I suggest to the board that the access easement may be valid, this board, I do not believe, has any jurisdiction to approve any changes on the Cedar Village property unless they concur with this application. So that's going to have to be argued by a court of law. The question is whether or not we can permit the applicant to proceed with the development application subject to that decision being made by a court, and what they're going to do. But we can't tell them to move a string on a flag on Cedar Village unless they concur. They're not in front of us. And we can't order Cedar Village to move that wall.
We're prepared to move the litigation if necessary, to move that wall. And
that would be where that would go. The question is whether or not if the access easement is, and if I find it under the case law and everything to be a valid access easement the way it's been established, then I believe the applicant could start its application. But for the rest of it.
Yeah, make it a compliance item on the resolution. If we get approvals granted, I have no problem with a compliance item on the resolution that we have to secure access through all rights under the easement. I have no problem with it.
No, Mark, I need you to take this over, okay? Because I think it's on.
Right, so I am going to re-review all of that and give you a written opinion. It'll be available for the next meeting, and I'll get to the attorneys before that. And how I suggest we should proceed with this application. But now that I heard the different arguments, I'll re-review everything that's been submitted to me.
I thank you for that. I just, none of us are attorneys here, and everyone has put in more than their fair share of time this evening.
I'm only an attorney for the board. I'm not a judge. I'm not a judge. So that I can only give you my opinion, which the board will respect, I'm sure. And if either the applicants are not satisfied with that, they're going to have to proceed, to the appropriate jurisdiction. I will speak to both of the attorneys, in a few days, and I'll give you an opinion, and I'll give that to the board, and it'll be well in advance of our next meeting. I would suggest then that you carry this though to the next meeting.
Yes. I consent to that, and if you give me the waiver form, I'll sign the waiver form on behalf of the applicant.
Thank you all.
Okay, Mr. Castellano, Mr. Donner, thank you very much. I think at the guidance of our counselor, Mr. Fitzgerald, Mr. Steinberg, I'm sorry, we're taking under advisement. We're not going to go any further with this case tonight. We're going to retreat. I thank you all. There's no more cases left, Mr. Kirk.
There are no more cases. I would like to have 1 minute with the board at the end, just afterwards, after everyone has left. And
okay.
That's it. Thank you.
Amy, if you could take final roll call. After that, I will need an adjournment.
Okay.
Motion to adjourn?
Roll call first, then adjournment.
No, I think it would be the opposite, okay?
Okay, adjournment first, then roll call.
Right,
Sorry.
we'll move for the adjournment.
Okay, who made that motion?
Fuller did.
Thank you. And I need a second.
Second, Beal.
Thank you, Ms. Beal. All right, and a roll call, Amy.
Okay. Mr. Fuller,
Yes.
Mr. Worrell,
Yes.
Mrs. Beal,
Yes.
Mr. Mamie,
Yeah.
Mr. Ashkenazi,
Yes.
and that's it.
All right, thank you all.
All right.
And the board members, if you could hang in here for a few minutes.
Thank you,
for
board
1 minute.
members. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, board members. Good night.
All right.